Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Konoha reacts to Naruto in Fairy Tail. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by AizenTheGoat and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Where the hell are we? Naruto asked as he looked around the strange room he suddenly found himself in. 1 minute, he was training with Sasuke, Sakura, and Sai while Kakashi watched on, and the next, he found himself here. He did notice all the sweat he had accumulated over the few hours they had sparred was now completely gone. Turning around to see who else was here, his eyes landed on his team, but he almost had a stroke when he saw his father along with the other cage. "Dad?" he asked in shock. "How are you here?" "I'm not sure. Lord first, second?" he asked, hoping they would know. Hashirama blinked in surprise and paid the man no mind as he began looking around. Tobirama did the same though he stood in the same spot with only his eyes darting around the room. Red eyes suddenly landed on the lone Uchiha in the room and the most awkward staring contest ensued. Sasuke stared back at the second Hokage with a bored expression and looked away. "There's no exit. I can't feel anyone nearby either." Before Naruto could say anything, more people joined the fray. The room suddenly expanded without warning, 6 more people joined them, this time, none of them were familiar. 3 women and 3 men who seemed just as lost as the group of shinobi. The one that caught Naruto's attention however, was the busty Reed. Her eyes locked onto Naruto and they widened in surprise and shock. Without warning, she rushed over and jumped into the air, crossing the distance between them. Instinctually, his arms came up to catch her by the thighs as they wrapped around his body. Before he had a chance to register what was happening, her lips were pressed onto his with her tongue quickly slipping into his mouth. "Does your son know that girl?" Tobirama asked Minato. "I'm not sure," he replied unsurely. Everyone could see him responding to the kiss as if no one was watching and was sure it would continue had it not been for a loud clap from above them. Breaking the kiss, Urza looked up to see who had interrupted her with a frown. Strangely, there was just the shape of a person with no distinguishable features. "Apologies for disturbing your moment, Miss Scarlet, however, that isn't the Naruto you know. You're all here because I want this version of Naruto along with his people to see what it's like for him in another world, your world." Urza looked back at the man who she had just kissed with wide fearful eyes. "Do you know who I am?" Naruto shook his head dumbly. He watched as Urza quickly hopped off of him and bowed to him before turning around with tears in her eyes. "I've just cheated Naruto and made you do it with me. Please hit me as punishment." The blonde looked back at his friends and former cage with a confused expression on his face. "I don't know what is going on." Luckily, the host was able to get things back on track. "Please, take a seat." Everyone found themselves seated on a comfortable chair with a large book being placed in Urza's lap. "You will begin to read and we will continue at random. It would be wise to pay attention, as what you will see is what happens in your immediate future." Makarov's head swiveled to the book. That would tell them the future. He would be able to stop Natsu from causing more property damage. Wiping her eyes, Urza opened the book and began to read, trying to ignore the look her lover's double was giving her. It had been a few days since Eisenwald's attempted attack on the Guildmasters Conference in Clover Town. The event had been big news and those from Fairy Tail who had been involved had been plastered all over the news, including the newest fairy, Lucy. The girl simultaneously loved and hated the new attention she got. More than a few of her admirers didn't care so much about her achievements as her looks, and that was infuriating. She would have to learn to deal with it she supposed. After talking to both Mira and Urza about it, neither seemed to even really understand what she was complaining about. Which seemed fitting in retrospect. Urza was randomly dense at times despite being extremely sharp at others, and Mira was a swimsuit model, so she had been used to the attention for years. Even if the two noticed the attention their looks got, it seemed like they couldn't care less. Most of the men turned to look at the women and mentally nodded, they would definitely get looks back home too. "What's Fairy Tail?" Naruto asked. Urza looked up from the book. "It's our guild. We're all a part of it and take jobs to fund it and keep it active as well as make a living." The shinobi nodded, it sounded similar to a village though on a much smaller scale. Lucy was still proud of her successes in helping during such an event though. While she might not have been one of the heavy hitters like Urza, Gray, or Natsu, she knew she had helped. Urza herself had pointed out her usage of Virgo had been what allowed them to escape that barrier at the station. It was really something to be so accepted as part of the guild after such a short time, they really were like a family. She had begun to remember even the more forgettable guild members' names. That being said, she was still getting accustomed to the various quirks each of her guild members displayed. Like this afternoon Urza and Natsu were going to be fighting, something that made her nervous after seeing the destruction those two could accomplish on their own. The shinobi were curious as to what this Virgo was, as well as the barrier they seemed to be stuck in. Glancing at the strange people, they also realized that they must have used some sort of different energy to do battle. Since the story had begun, there had been no mention of chakra. Naruto glanced over at Urza and wondered how she was connected to him. Their host had said that he wasn't her Naruto, which meant he had to exist in some capacity there too. If the kiss she'd given him upon seeing him was any indication, he would say that he and her were in some kind of physical relationship. Now that I think about it, it might not actually be safe to watch those two fight. Lucy thought while biting her lip as everyone began heading outside the guild for the spar. I can't believe they're going through with this. Lucy said in shock as the two wizards geared up to fight in the street. You guys just allow fighting on normal populated streets? Minato asked in confusion. The shortest one of the group, a bald old man with white hair on the sides of his head and a mustache, pinched his nose and exhaled loudly. The previous cage could all empathize with the man as he clearly dealt with nonsense on a daily basis. He nodded. We don't, but children these days don't listen. Even after deducting pay they continue to do it. Tsunade snorted. Believe me, I know all about troublesome kids who don't listen. She said, glancing at Naruto. Oh hey Lucy. The ever-kind Murahin greeted the new fairy tale member. Well, if those two value their manhood they better go through with it. Elfman grunted. Urza's not a man though. Mira said to her brother. But you have to admit she's manly. Joked Mikao as he joined the group. Aren't any of you worried this could tear our strongest team apart? Lucy asked as she turned back to the two fighters in the center of the crowd. What are you talking about? Our strongest team? Gray asked in confusion. You, Natsu and Urza, you dummy. You're the three strongest wizards in the guild, right? The girl snapped. PFFT, what idiot fed you that line? Gray asked with a laugh only to wince when Mira turned away upset with his words. And not that you're an idiot, Mira. Gray said, trying to comfort the guild's barmaid. You should really think before you speak, you know. Sai told Gray, who looked away. Team 7 all turned to look at Sai with blank faces. Out of everyone, he was the last one who should be talking about thinking before they speak. Wait, so there's people stronger than them? Hashirama asked. If that was true, why label them as the strongest team, young lady? The god of shinobi asked the white-haired woman. Mira smiled kindly. Because as far as teams go, they are the strongest. The strongest member of the guild is hardly around and the others don't team up. That made sense, they supposed. Tobirama, however, was still curious to see what these people could do. They weren't chakra users but something else entirely. Well, I'll hand it to Natsu and Gray, they're tough little dudes, but neither of them are even close to being our strongest members, Lucy. Elfman pointed out. Having been listening in nearby, Levi and the rest of Team Shadowgear stepped over to join the conversation. As far as saying Urza is the strongest female wizard in the guild, that's a pretty safe bet, but well, Levi started, then glanced at her team members. You're the strongest female? Tsunade and Sakura asked. It was nice to see other women getting the respect they deserve for their power. Tsunade had held that title for a while herself. I suppose I am. Doridide responded evenly. Wow. Naruto whistled. Now we have the two strongest women from both worlds with us. You and Sakura. Tsunade frowned. I'm the strongest woman in our world. She didn't mean for it to come out as bragging, but it was the way it was. Naruto shrugged. I'm just repeating what they've been saying in Konoha. The busty blonde felt a vein in her forehead pulse and with an accusatory point, she replied. That's you. You're the they in question. Naruto's smirk was all that was needed to confirm her suspicion. Sakura looked over at her teammate with a shake of her head, but smiled nonetheless. It filled her with pride that one of the two strongest men in their world really saw her as the new strongest. Hiruzen, who'd been quiet up until now, cleared his throat and requested that they get back to it. I'd say either Laxus or Mystigan. Well, now anyway, with those other guys gone. Jet said, though he mumbled the last part, getting a knowing glance from most of the other members, confusing Lucy. Alright, let's get this show on the road. Natsu bellowed from the center of the crowd only to be met with murmuring. We are waiting for the master, Natsu, though honestly I thought he would be out here by now. Urza said before looking around with more focused eyes, trying to pick Makarov out. The cheers died down and murmurs took their place as everyone looked around for Makarov so they could get the fight started. After several moments of waiting, some of the crowd even began to grow impatient and leave to carry out their daily business. The guild members all seemed confused. I don't get it, where's Gramps? I just talked to him like 5 minutes ago. What, did he get lost on the walk to the front door or something? Natsu complained, getting a painful pop on the back of his head from Urza, who glared at him. Natsu felt a large fist bop him atop his head. Though it lacked any real power behind it, it still made his neck hurt. What the hell, Gramps? He yelled, holding his bruised head. I swear kids these days have no respect. He grumbled, getting agreeing nods from Kakashi, Tsunade, and Tobirama. No need to send out a search party for me kids, I was just greeting some family members who have been gone for quite a while. I think you will all be happy to see them. Makarov said with a slight chuckle as he slipped out the door to the guild hall. What do you mean, master? Who are you talking about? Mira asked, cocking her head to the side slightly, only to gasp when the old man flicked the door open wider. Standing before the guild members was a girl that bore striking similarities to the Strauss siblings in Lucy's opinion. She didn't get much of a chance to ask about it before things fell into chaos. The guild swept forward and practically dogpiled the poor girl, further shocking Lucy by their reaction. Left with little choice, Lucy turned to one of the few wizards who didn't rush forward with the rest. The same person who had brought her to the guild hall earlier to see Urza and Natsu fight. "Ray, what's going on, who is that?" Lucy asked while turning again to watch the chaos happening in the doorway of the guild hall. "Ah, I guess you wouldn't know, would you? That is Lana Strauss, Mira and Elfman's little sister. We all thought that, what I mean is, I guess we just haven't seen her in a few years." Gray said, fighting back his emotions despite some happy tears welling up in his eyes. Lana, Mira cried happily. She would get to see her sister again. Those from Fairy Tail had varying degrees of waterworks, with Marahin being the most notable. It seemed this Lana person was very important to everyone. It also showed the difference between worlds. Whereas the young lady was welcomed back with open arms, if this were Konoha, there would be an interrogation at the very least to confirm they were who they claimed. Sasu could only wonder what it would be like to see his brother again, but he knew he wouldn't be that fortunate. Still, as happy of a moment as this was, he also wanted to see what kind of power these people used. That answered her question, but made her a bit more confused too. Everyone was acting a little too extreme for having simply missed someone for a few years. It was easy to see there was more to the story. Alright you brats, that's enough. Now I'm sure we all have plenty of things to ask Lana, but she has been through a lot and I think it's only right that her brother and sister speak with her first. Natsu and Happy too, I guess. Makarov mumbled the last part, seeing as he doubted he could pry the boys off of the girl, now that they had her in their embrace. Those four had missed her far more than any of the others, so it was only right they got the first chance to catch up. Something going on there? Naruto wondered with a grin. Natsu, however, didn't pick up on his teasing tone and simply stared back. What are you talking about? The blonde glanced at his people and then at the other members of Fairy Tail who simply shook their heads. Don't bother, man. Gray replied with a defeated tone. The crowd dispersed and filed into the guild while Natsu, Happy, and the reunited Strauss siblings headed off into a private room. Lucy turned to Urza who stood nearby. She seemed happy that Lana was back, but also a bit disappointed in something. As everyone else seemed to be heading off, though, Lucy figured she was the best bet of figuring out what had everyone acting so emotional. Urza, Lucy began only to feel a light tap from the guild master as he approached the redeed. Urza, I think you had best head into my office, someone, as Makarov said, only to stop as he saw the door swing open and a man step out of his office. Always so impatient. Makarov chuckled warmly, knowing neither Urza or the young man in the doorway could hear him. Lucy was stunned once again as she saw Urza break out into a wide smile, despite the tears that began running down her face. Lucy didn't even get a chance to ask who it was before she watched him cast some spell, causing a single sunflower to grow in his hand. As the man held it out, the fearsome Titania bolted forward and all but leapt into his arms, wrapping her own tightly around his neck and pulling him down into a flurry of kisses. Lucy watched on in wonder as the man broke out into laughter and wrapped large arms around Urza, hoisting her up off the ground and spinning in place. Several others had taken notice by now, and murmurs had begun as the crowd grew once again. "Hey, it's Naruto," one voice whispered. "There I am," Naruto pointed out. At the same time, a holographic image of that world's Naruto showed up in front of them, and it was almost a one-to-one copy of the young man. Now they could see why Urza had given him the same treatment as the one in the book. "Minato," Hiruzen called out. "It seems your son has picked up a liking for redeeds." The older blonde smiled fondly at the uncanny resemblance between him and his son. This young woman also had red hair, though darker than Kushina's, but the resemblance was there all the same. "Even in our world," Sakura began, only to stop when Naruto elbowed her side. Did she want Urza to hear that? "Yeah, I figured Oberon would be back with Lana. He said he would." Another said. "Oberon?" Naruto wondered, was that his last name? "Man, I really thought that they were both A-thirds started." "Shut up. That's Oberon you're talking about." The second voice reprimanded the third. "Oberon, king of the fairies, like Titania is the queen. No wonder Urza acted the way she did." Lucy thought as she watched the blonde man set Urza back down on her feet. As soon as he did, he took a solid-looking punch to the bicep as Urza's happy expression turned to a scowl. Sasuke and Sai shared matching grins, which was strange for the pair, but both soon turned to Naruto. "You're a fairy." Both men clowned at the same time. The blonde covered his face with a single hand to avoid facing the shinobi. He had fought the strongest being in his universe, overcome adversity on a daily basis, and had even brought peace to the world. All to be called a fairy. Come on now, Hashirama tried, doing his best to come up with a way to spin the story to make it sound more masculine for the young man. It's not a bad nickname. Naruto stared blankly at them, ignoring the snickering from his friends. The god of shinobi, the second Hokage, the professor, the yellow flash, the slug princess. He listed off the nicknames of the cage. Turning to Kakashi, he added Kakashi of the Sharingan. All cool nicknames that struck fear into people. Sai smiled. And now we have the king of fairies. That incited another round of laughs from the shinobi, and while Minato did his best not to laugh, he couldn't stop the chuckles from escaping him. Urza placed a hand on his back and rubbed soothingly. It's a good name. One that lets people know how much you mean to the guild. She said. She hadn't noticed that she had taken his hand in hers and quickly let go, reminding herself this was not a boyfriend. We all thought you and Lisana were dead. Last we heard was you were staying in Acheron to finally finish your quest, and the next we hear is the city was wrecked and hundreds were dead. Then when I saw Lisana I hopped and you weren't with her, and Urza started to break down only for the blonde man to wipe at her tears. I'm so sorry Urza. Really I am. I sent so many letters after the Acheron incident, I realized you weren't getting them a few months later when we heard about the funeral held for us. We wanted to come back, but we had to finish the quest. We were so close and we couldn't lose our lead. Naruto explained, calming her down. At least a little. I thought you were dead, Urza mumbled as she leaned into his embrace, again letting her head rest against his chest. You've changed so much too. You too Urza. You're even more beautiful than when I left. Naruto replied as one hand wrapped around his lover's slender waist and his free hand gently combed through her long scarlet locks. I'm back now though. That is if you're still my partner of course. He said, chuckling as she slapped his shoulder. She didn't need to correct him. No matter how far or for how long, Urza would always be waiting to reunite with him. He knew it too, even if it sparked some guilt about the length of his absence this time, and that's not even mentioning the fact that she and the others thought him to be dead. So where was he? Kakashi asked. They had mentioned Acheron, but without the knowledge of their world, that was all but useless to them. All will be revealed in time. The host spoke. Getting the hint, everyone quieted down and let Urza continue. We have so much to catch up on, first though our team has grown bigger. Natsu, Happy, and Gray you all know but this is Lucy and she is new to the guild and our team. Urza said as she snatched Lucy's hand and pulled the startled and blushing blonde over to the king of the fairies. Naruto took in the girl's appearance and smiled at her. She was obviously very new to the guild still, along with it she was a couple years younger than himself and Urza. He could sense she had a sizable amount of magic as he took her hand and shook it, and her ridiculously stacked assets made one hell of an impression on him. Magic? Sasuke muttered. Taking a look at the white-haired girl next to him, he spoke again. How does that work? Mira tapped her chin and thought. Well, everyone has some sort of magic whether it be celestial keys in Lucy's case, or fire in Natsu's. It really depends on the individual. Do you need a medium to channel it? Or does it just respond to your intent? He followed up, now curious as to how this worked. Perhaps there was a chance that a Sharingan could somehow copy this magic. Mira blinked. You guys don't use magic, what exactly do you use? You will have a moment to discuss amongst yourselves at the end of the chapter. The host interrupted once again. We can talk later. Mira whispered. Urza had her beat though, and as nice as it was to meet a new recruit to the guild, especially one as attractive as her, Naruto was a little more interested in catching up with a girlfriend he hadn't seen in 2 years. It's great to meet you Lucy, I hope we get to know each other well, but for now I really want to go catch up with Urza if that's alright with you old man. Naruto finished as he turned to his guild master. Go on, I'm sure Urza has kept your place in tip-top shape while you were gone, Naruto. Makarov said with a knowing smile. He then turned to corral the guild members and let the leaders of the next generation get reacquainted properly. Urza waved goodbye to Lucy as she led the way tugging Naruto along by his arm. The blonde man shot a smile towards several guild members who were waving at him as he passed and let the Riti take the lead. It didn't take long to reach the house and Naruto smiled softly as he looked at everything. It was clear Urza had moved into his home from Fair Hills at some point. She had pretty much lived with him already before he had left on his mission, so that was fine. She had taken care of everything just as he expected her to. Even his plants looked vibrant and healthy which made him happy. That's adorable. Sakura said with awe. Knowing that the woman never lost hope. Urza set about putting the sunflower he had grown for her into a vase and set it in the windowsill before turning back to him and slowly making her way across the room. She slid into another tight embrace with her lover. Naruto and his red-haired companion shared a long deep kiss filled with emotion. Different than the frantic hungry ones earlier. It was like he was using it to tell her he wasn't about to leave her again. Once they broke the kiss, he pecked her forehead before kissing the top of her head. "I'm so happy you're home," she mumbled into his chest. "I'm happy to be home too. I'm here to stay too. We managed to achieve our goal. So I'm back to remake Team Royal," Naruto said, getting a light squeeze from the girl as he mentioned reforming their team. She leaned back and caught his lips again. It was a mix of the loving tender kiss he had given her a moment ago and the starved kisses earlier. As they kissed, their hands began to roam across the familiar territory of one another's bodies. 2 years apart from one another had taken their toll, and they both had plenty of pent-up desire rushing to release. Now Naruto knew exactly why the woman had accosted him the moment she saw him. The projection showed everyone exactly what was going on, and Naruto found it difficult to believe he was actually feeling jealous of himself. He wondered briefly if the projection would show the entire scene he figured was coming, or only moments. If this really was a one-for-one copy of him, that meant that Sakura and Tsunade would be seeing his junk. While he had nothing to be ashamed of, he still didn't want this to be how someone saw it. Glancing at Sai, his eyes narrowed, but he shrugged shortly after. At least this would put those ridiculous rumors the man had started to rest. As Naruto removed his shirt, Urza paused. Ever since they were 15, Naruto had begun getting tattoos. He said that every event in his life required a mark of some kind, whether it was a scar or a tattoo. She knew most of them. The first tattoo had been of the blade his father had been known for, and the chains that made his mother famous tangled up in one another. They had both been killed when Naruto was young, and Urza had been told by him that following that was when he had met her at the Tower of Heaven, a fellow slave. Instead of a tattoo, his time as a slave was remembered by the deep scars on his wrists and neck from the shackles and collar he had been made to wear as a punishment. They had dug in and cut deeply into his skin. Along with that was a tattoo of the tower itself on his left forearm. A broken chain surrounding it recalling his freedom from the tower. Urza had been there alongside him for both their time as slaves and their newfound freedom. "You don't have tattoos, do you, Naruto?" Sakura asked, looking at his exposed forearms. "Nah. Unless you count the seal on my stomach as a tattoo." The fairy tale guild symbol proudly took up residence on his upper arm just like Urza's own. Except his was a deep red. These Urza knew well. He'd had them all since he was 15. The next was the lightning-like patterned scar along his left side originating from a narrow cut. He had gotten that from the first time they had to separate after joining the guild. She still didn't know the full story, but he had gotten it while retrieving Lysana from where she had ended up after her disappearance. "You have more new ones," she said simply as her hand glided across his skin, tenderly touching the 3 new marks. "Let me tell you about them. The big scar too," he said as he patted the lightning mark he had on the side. "I've heard that tattoos are addictive. Looks like that's been proven," Tobirama said with a shake of his head. To him, unless the tattoo served some sort of purpose, it was useless. Ashirama sighed at his brother's words, the man was far too uptight for his own good. "I think they're neat. They're a symbol of his history so that he never forgets. I think a tree would look good on me." Tsunade's sweat dropped at her grandfather's words. The man had seemingly forgotten that he was dead and a tattoo would do him little good. They stepped over to the couch and Naruto pulled the girl into his lap so that she was lying across him. He took her hand in his and slowly traced the first scar. That same large lightning mark. "I never told you how exactly I got this or what happened when I went to get Lysana back. There was a reason for that, but I cleared it with the master and I can tell you about the whole thing now," Naruto said. Urza was silent, but she gently trailed a finger down the winding paths that made up the scar. She never pried into the matter knowing he would tell her when or if he could. "Lysana obviously didn't die when she disappeared. You were the only one to agree with me on that except for Mystigan. He told me he had a lead and we investigated it together. He was right in the end. Lysana had been accidentally transported to another world similar to our own. It was so weird. There were alternate versions of us there, but they were all wrong. The other versions of you and me were terrible people. They were enforcers for a tyrant but extremely powerful warriors." Naruto explained. By now Urza's eyes were locked on his face seeing the bother there. "So an opposite world?" Minato asked out loud. The thought of fighting evil versions of his comrades flashed through his mind. Though in the shinobi world, everyone felt that they were justified in what they were doing. "I've heard of it," Makarov replied. "I've never been there myself though. I'm curious how Naruto got there to begin with. I'm more curious as to what kind of magic this Naruto uses. My guess is that it's some sort of wind-based techniques," Sasuke added. Kakashi agreed. Their Naruto's affinity was wind, so the most likely magic element would be the same. That or cloning, as that was the blonde's bread and butter. "The scar?" she asked. "Yeah, from the other May left a similar mark on his chest after he trailed off." "After what?" she asked. "I killed the other you. She was about to kill Lysana and I reacted. I stabbed her in the chest and the other me went berserk. Not that I blame him. If someone had taken you from me, Naruto again trailed off. You had to kill your girlfriend? Tsunade asked. That had to leave some sort of trauma. They looked at Naruto, who stared back confused. I don't know why you're looking at me. I've been with you the whole time. Urza chuckled and Naruto found he quite liked hearing it. The Redeed noted that both her Naruto and this one had similar mannerisms. It made her feel like he never left. Urza squeezed his hand gently to comfort him. She couldn't imagine that. Having to kill a doppelganger of her lover would be hard enough, but facing her own self, furious at the loss of him, would be terrible too. He managed to injure me the same time I injured him. The last thing I remember before coming back to our world with Lysana was him running off with the other you in his arms. I could only see us in that situation, and it made it easy to agree with the master when he told me to keep what happened a secret. Naruto said, a bit guilty because he had kept it from her. Urza pecked him on the chest and leaned her head against him while chuckling. He was far too hard on himself. Anyway, a few months after getting back we found out the machine used to get to the other world and back had been stolen by some soldiers from the kingdom of Carnold. Naruto explained. Hashirama sighed. Things can never be simple, can they? The shinobi shook their heads. Not where Naruto is concerned, no. Sakura replied. Why would they come all that way to steal it? It's on the other side of the continent. Urza asked, leaning back up to look in his eyes. Simple, it made gateways to other worlds. Imagine the possibilities of stealing advanced technology or resources from an entirely different reality. And since Carnold was in the middle of a civil war, they could definitely use it. Naruto explained. So that's why you went all the way out there. But why take Lysana if you were walking into a war zone? She wasn't that strong and could have been killed. I would have been a better choice, and she stopped talking at the look her lover gave her. Urza, you need to have more faith in our friends. They are stronger than you realize. Besides, Lysana is my student. She needed to learn skills by experience. As for you coming. We are the royals of the guild. You know the master uses us to keep things in check. I knew I would be gone for a year at least. We couldn't both be absent for more than a few months before things went to chaos around here. Or more chaos than usual. He explained and Urza sighed. She wasn't happy, but when it came to this Naruto always had logic on his side. Naruto keeping things in check? Kakashi wondered. Well, we know there's some differences. Maybe he's actually where he says he'll be on time. Sasuke shot back, still upset over their teacher's tardiness. Bray scratched his head in confusion. Wait, so is this Naruto that much different from ours? They look about the same. Mira nodded. My guess is there will be slight personality differences along with the power they have. They don't use magic like we do. Other than that, it seems like he's the same. Go on then. You went after the device. Urza urged, getting into his story. Yeah, well, there was a civil war and we ended up just trying to help people caught in the middle of it. At the front of the conflict though were the 5 generals. The king had made his 3 children and 2 others into pawns for his attempt to break the spirit of his people. I guess he married the queen, and after they had their kids he essentially took over when she died, even though their eldest child, their daughter, should have become queen. The war was brutal, and eventually I ended up helping the rebels, which were secretly under 2 of the generals' command, overthrow the king. In the battle for Acheron, I faced off against one of the generals for the final time. He had been turned into a living weapon by the king and had extremely powerful god slayer magic. He had a brand on his forehead. The symbol for his people's word for love. It was to represent that he could only love himself. Even after his sister tried to talk him down, in the end I had to kill him to protect innocence. So I had the same mark put here to remember him and to promise to help the next person I find in a similar state as him. Naruto said as he tapped the mark on his chest over his heart. God slayer magic? Tobirama asked, taking a lot more interest now. Did this dimension have people whose sole purpose was to kill gods? It's a kind of magic, it's really difficult to explain exactly how it works. Mira replied. Naruto listened in, trying to get an understanding of their magic, but quickly pushed those thoughts out of his mind as Urza's words registered in his mind. A brand on the forehead that means love. That was basically describing Gaara. Were the others there too? This, he said, pointing to the fan on his right arm. And this, he pointed at the Hergla shape on his right arm, the same place as the fairy tale mark, but on his opposite arm. They are the marks of the Carnold royal family and Carnold kingdom respectively. I kin to have status equal to that of their royal guard. He turned sheepish as he admitted that. What? She asked. Bray scoffed. If that guy thought he had a chance with Urza, he was even more stupid than he thought. I wonder if he'll try something in front of Naruto. Natsu said with a grin, hoping he'd see a fight. I hope he does. Tobirama commented, much to the confusion of the others. Tsunade hoped the man would elaborate, but he didn't. Why? To see what kind of magic Naruto uses. I know how he and his father fight, but this one uses magic. It might be completely different. He'd never heard the name Naruto before, so it had to be some new recruit like the fine little blonde piece that had joined recently. Well, it wouldn't do for some little upstart brat to move in on what he wanted. You there? Are you the one that assaulted the council's emissary? You're under arrest. He said as he stepped forward. The others glanced his way before following their boss's lead. The lieutenant was sure Urza was the one to actually handle the little messenger man. She had a serious temper, and he was sure she was a real hellcat in his sack. Yeah, I figured that much. I'll present myself to the council with Urza here. Just relax, Super Trooper. Naruto said dismissively. No, you're gonna be going in wearing bracelets, punk. The lieutenant said, getting a snort from Naruto. Looks like you'll be getting your wish. Hashirama told his brother. Truth be told, he was looking forward to this himself. Naruto had impressed him immensely while they had fought together in the war. He looked forward to seeing what the young man was capable of. Aburama didn't reply, but his eyes definitely zoned in on the display that had shown up in front of them. Sasuke did as well. He knew it was magic in this world, but he wanted to know if hand signs were still the primary trigger for techniques. His eyes turned red, 3 Tomo hypnotically spinning as he stared at the picture. You're kidding, right? No way this isn't some joke with that line. Either way though, I most definitely am not putting those cuffs on. Naruto scowled as he stepped away from Urza. Don't worry, we'll do it for you. The lieutenant said as he moved to arrest Naruto. The guild had gone silent, but they glared menacingly at the Rune Knights and lieutenant in particular. The man had been coming around the guild acting like a big shot since he got assigned to Magnolia. Only Makarov's order not to stir up trouble with him and thereby the Knights overall kept the guild from booting his ass out the door. Naruto hadn't received the memo. But the flick of his wrist, a large hammer, one sparking with small flames, appears in his hand, and before the lieutenant could even flinch, he was sent through the back wall of the guild hall by Naruto with a single swing. I was wrong, I guess. The only joke here was you. Naruto said as he looked at the other knights. So no hand signs. Hiruzen noted. I didn't see anything that indicated a technique had activated. Perhaps we're missing something. Kakashi mused to himself. Makarov rubbed his chin and thought. Like the shinobi, he too was curious as to how they fought. The way they were looking for a medium to channel power told him they needed something before they could use any of their power. Well, they didn't seem to be unfriendly, minus the young man with the red eyes and the white-haired man who occasionally glared at the former, he still didn't see it fit to reveal anything. He had it coming. One shouted and the group collectively raised their hands in surrender. Naruto scoffed, rolling his eyes as he put away his hammer and continued to walk with Urza over to the master, who seemed to be chuckling. Makarov had indeed told the guild not to start something with the knights, but he wasn't about to reprimand his children for standing up for themselves. As his comrades had said, the lieutenant had it coming. Master, it seems Urza's gotta present herself to the council or some shit. Naruto said. Right. This messenger was here earlier looking for you, Urza. I see he chose not to follow my advice though. Makarov said, eyeing the tattered and dirty uniform and the bruise peeking out past his ripped collar that looked a lot like toes for some reason. It's not a big deal. I'll be back tonight if you keep Natsu busy. Urza said with a motion with her chin toward the salamander making his way toward the two of them. The salamander? Tsunade asked, her mind immediately thinking of Hanzo. Was he perhaps a water user? Natsu nodded. That's my nickname back home. Do you have a giant salamander by any chance? She followed up. Natsu frowned. What? No. Why would I have a giant salamander? Tsunade didn't respond, instead nodding once and returning her attention back to Urza. Makarov eyed the woman with curiosity. He knew she didn't ask that question randomly and deduced that someone back in her world had a similar nickname and likely had a salamander as a pet or partner. Damn deal, Naruto said, re-equipping a shield just as Natsu launched himself at him. Naruto. Fight me. He screamed only for his response to be a loud metallic thump and ringing sound following it like a gong had been rung. Try and make it fast, love. Naruto said as he grabbed a hold of the Dragon Slayer's ankle and drug him through the hole the lieutenant had made. Natsu wanted a spar, then he would get one. Most of the guild went to watch one of their strongest members at work, while others simply went back to their business, while Urza followed the still limping council messenger out the door and off toward the council chambers. Dragon Slayer? The shinobi thought. What kind of world were these people from? The thought of dragons flying about was strange, but some, like Hashirama, seemed to want to visit the place for themselves. Think we'll see a dragon this chapter? Sai asked, hoping to get some inspiration for his drawings. Sasuke shook his head. Unlikely. But I've been wrong before. Naruto stood across from Natsu as the Dragon Slayer began bouncing back and forth on his feet, hyping himself up for the spar to come. Their audience was pretty sizable, the Strauss siblings, Team Shadowgear, Gray, Happy, Lucy and easily another dozen sets of eyes watched as Makarov told both fighters the rules. As the master spoke, Naruto removed his shirt showing off the tattoos and more impressively for the now blushing girls, his physique. Even Lisana, who wasn't actually interested in her teacher romantically, had a slight blush. She couldn't lie, out of all the men in their guild Naruto clearly trained himself physically more than any of the rest of them. "Let's just fight already," Natsu shouted, cutting off Makarov as he was lecturing the boys. The master sighed but nodded before waving a hand to start the match. Natsu rushed Naruto right out the gate only for Naruto to sidestep him and fold the pink cat over his leg in a brutal kick that tossed him into the air. With a quick spin he snapped out his other leg, launching the younger boy like a cannon back across the clearing and into a couple of trees. That was anticlimactic. Naruto deadpanned. He just kicked the man away like that. "Just wait, I'll get you right now," Natsu said confidently, staring at the image in front of them. He hadn't even used his magic yet. This time would be different. "Come on Natsu, use your head, I'm not even using magic yet," Naruto said with a mildly disappointed tone that worked just as planned and riled the Dragon Slayer up. From where she watched on the sidelines, Lucy was astounded. So this was one of the two that Levi and the others were talking about yesterday. He was amazing. Not even using magic yet and already he had Natsu on the ropes. Plus seeing how he looked with his shirt off. Then looked wild and unrestrained, but not like Natsu who was, well, he was stupid. It was more like Naruto was simply primal and full of energy and life. "I'm not stupid," Natsu grumbled. Lucy chuckled nervously. She was still rather new to the guild and she hadn't counted on Natsu hearing her thoughts. She wouldn't get kicked out of the guild now, would she? "Yes you are," Gray confirmed. Incredibly so, actually. Before they could begin to argue once again, their heads were forced down by Makarov, who could see the incoming brawl coming. They would not embarrass themselves in front of their dimensional friends. "I'll show you," Natsu roared as he blasted forward again, getting only a sigh from Naruto. Instead of stepping around him, Naruto swung a punch that sent Natsu spinning for a second before Naruto tangled up his limbs and tightly wrapped his own arms around the boy. Then with a jolt he performed a suplex, slamming the fiery boy into the dirt face first. As he climbed to his feet, Naruto shook his head in disappointment before releasing another sigh. "What did I just tell you about using your head?" Naruto asked. Natsu surprised him slightly by his quick recovery before the pink cat tried to grab Naruto's head and hit him with a head, but instead Naruto caught him by his hair, stopping his head from finishing the arc to connect with his own skull. "That's not what I meant, but by all means enjoy the result of that move," Naruto said before headbutting the brat himself, dropping him onto the ground in a moaning heap on the ground. Naruto cheered, that move had worked on Gaara once too. People really underestimated how effective headbutts were. "I'd still like to see more of my magic. I still don't even know what it is," he whined shortly after. "I'm sure you'll understand the more we read, young man," Makarov said in a grandfatherly tone. The same tone he used when speaking with their own Naruto. "I dare say it's quite the powerful asset you have." "This isn't working out, Gray," Naruto called, making the ice mage pale drastically. "Why yeah?" Gray asked. "You're on Natsu's team for this spar now. Urza told me you guys are on a team together with her now or something," Naruto continued. "What? No, he began only for a grinning Kana to shove him forward toward the waiting blonde nightmare. Slowly Gray took his place beside Natsu, who slowly stood to his feet. Normally both would have complained about not needing the other, but Natsu was still smarting from the quick succession of blows that would have laid out most opponents, and Gray could remember training with Naruto as a kid. This was about to be a lesson in determination. Even if Naruto was still toying with them. Sasuke's Sharingan deactivated, it was clear he wouldn't be getting any sort of information from this battle. Putting on his bored expression once more, he rested against the comfortable back of the chair and crossed his arms across his chest. "I don't know if I should be insulted that he stopped paying attention when I joined or not," Gray said, commenting on Sasuke's demeanor change. Natsu laughed. "If I was him I'd lose interest too. This should be more fair, right?" He called over to the two younger boys, getting a slight flinch as he re-equipped a bow staff into his hands and expertly spun it around his upper body before dropping into a ready stance. Lucy wasn't sure how to describe the fight before her as Naruto engaged the younger two with his weapon. It was so fast and brutal she wanted to look away, but at the same time she found that she couldn't. As Naruto looked to be using the two boys as balls and his staff as a bat, she finally couldn't process anymore and turned to Mira and her siblings for help. "What the hell?" she asked, getting a set of laughter from all three siblings. "Well, what did you expect? He's called the king of the fairies for a reason." A voice beside Lucy pulled her attention up to Happy. Naruto glared at his friends for once again chuckling at the nickname he'd been given. Oberon was cool, but being called the king of fairies was really giving them ammunition against him. You're lucky the bingo book is all but obsolete now. Sai said with a smile. I can imagine what your entry would say. I can imagine what your entry would say. Naruto mocked. How about we let Urza continue reading? Looking at the woman, he shot her a smile. One that she happily returned. The two stared at each other for a moment before Makarov coughed in an exaggerated way to get their attention. With a wave of his hand, Urza got the hint and turned back to the book. I know it's just that, well I don't know, it seems so insane. I thought Natsu and Gray were so strong before, but now I can't help but think she trailed off as she watched Gray go sliding painfully across the clearing. Can't help but think that you're weak? Lysana asked. Lucy sadly nodded, getting a small giggle from the girl. Don't worry about it, he does that to all of us at times. I don't really think he realizes the influence he has with the guild. He inspires you to do better though. Trust me. She continued. That's right, you're his student right? Lucy asked. Yep, I couldn't do hardly anything in a fight before he took me under his wing. I'm no powerhouse like he is, but I'm alright now thanks to him. Stick around and the same thing will happen to you given some time. Trust me. Lysana reassures Lucy. I suppose that's another thing you guys have in common. Sakura mentioned. Konohamaru stuck with you for a while and next thing you know he's defeating one of Pain's bodies. Hiruzen looked proud to hear that his grandson was doing good and also beamed in pride at the blonde man. He'd definitely come a long way from the little boy he used to know. He knew Konoha would be in good hands when the hat finally made its way to his head. The blonde smiled, Fairy Tail really was a special place. By now she was coming to really understand just how special it was. When she looked back at the match only part of her was surprised it was over. Naruto standing over the pair of boys and looking disappointed, not in them, but at the lack of a good fight. I think that's enough for now. Urza should be finishing up with the council soon enough and then she'll head straight home. Best I meet her there with some food ready for supper. The group dispersed, a couple helping Makarov take Natsu and Gray to Perusica while Naruto headed home. He dug through the kitchen till he found all the supplies he needed and made a simple but hearty meal. He was right on the money because the moment Urza stepped into the house he could tell her earlier good mood had been dampened. What happened? He asked. Can we just talk about it another time? She asked with pleading in her eyes. Something must have happened. Sasuke muttered. Aburama rolled his eyes. Obviously. But what? The former Avenger narrowed his eyes at the Senju but kept his composure. It wouldn't do him any good to get into an argument with a dead man. If there's a council, my guess is they have an overinflated sense of importance and said something to piss her off. Minato guessed. Either them or some outside party. Yeah, here eat something then we'll curl up on the couch for a movie or a nap or something. He answered. Urza clung to him then. A soft chaste kiss was shared and it took a little bit of time to break the hug and for her to take her seat to enjoy the food. I had wanted to make something as a welcome home meal. She pouted lightly, brightening the atmosphere ever so softly. The pair enjoyed a homemade meal and neither would recall what movie they tried to watch, both falling fast asleep in the familiar warmth of each other's embrace. The book disappeared from Urza's hands and suddenly materialized on Naruto's lap. Looking up, the host said nothing. So should I just continue where she left off or do you guys want a break? He asked. In the end, the group decided on a brief 20-minute break in which everyone began to talk amongst themselves. Naruto chatted with Urza about what kind of magic he used and its applications, while Sasuke, and to his annoyance Tobirama, began to talk to Murahin about the intricacies of their magic system. Chapter 2. The king hummed happily into the hair of his queen as they both lay entangled in his bed. It had been nearly a week since his return and things were going smoothly to say the least. He had been spending most of his time getting back into the swing of things with the rest of his guildmates. That of course meant excessive partying over the last 5 days and Naruto wouldn't have it any other way. While he had spent a lot of time simply catching up with the other members of Fairy Tail, drinking and singing just slightly off-key with them, he had dedicated a lot of that time reacquainting himself with the guild specifically for Urza. They had hardly left their house for a couple days and Naruto realized he really needed to clean it up. They had to tone their time together down a bit. Urza was already walking with a very pronounced hip and yesterday it took an hour before she could feel her legs enough to get out of bed. Naruto had felt somewhat bad about that until Urza had gotten comically upset about the idea of him not providing the same level of intensity next time and the time after, and so on and so on. A small price to pay I would think. Tsunade commented, getting grimaces from Hashirama, Tobirama, and Naruto. Granny, can you not? Naruto muttered. Those seemed to be the wrong words as the busty blonde's eyes locked onto him. Hey, you don't hear me tell you anything about the groupies you found yourself enjoying do you? So zip it. Really his queen had been awfully clingy since he got back but he couldn't really blame her. He still felt awful for causing her to think he was dead for so long. Now he was back though and things needed to be put right. Fairy Tail was still the #1 guild, but Fiori itself had gained a shadow over it since his absence. No doubt the seeds had already been there, but his experiences with Carnold had opened his eyes to seeing the problems more easily. He couldn't just actively go against the government though. The moment he even stepped out of line he would be labeled a dark mage, and his guild might even be dragged down with him. He had no doubt that Fairy Tail would happily go down for one of their own, but his position among the guild was such that he was one of its most public faces, even after being gone for so long. Any action he made would reflect heavily back on the guild, so he would have to wait to really do anything about Fiori and the Magic Council when an opportunity presented itself. Naruto, do you want to go out for breakfast? Urza said after an adorable yawn as she peeked up at her lover through her bangs. Of course, but we'll need a shower first. Pretty sure not just Natsu will be able to smell us if we go out before that. Naruto said. So there's dark mages huh? Sasuke muttered. Yeah, evil mages who mostly do whatever they want. Natsu told him. Ray rubbed his chin and thought before adding on to his friend's statement. Truth be told though, you can be labeled a dark mage just for using certain magic. Even if it was for a good reason, the moment the council deems you dark, that's it. Naruto narrowed his eyes. That was dangerous. They were almost begging for people to turn against them if that's how they operated. Urza giggled until she got an actual whiff of their joint stench and grimaced. They might need to wash the bedding as well. Probably clean off the table and countertop as well while they were at it. Maybe we should shoot for lunch. We actually have a lot of cleaning to do before we leave the house. Urza said as she lifted her head up to look at the strewn about clothes on the floor and practically every other surface in the bedroom. She wondered how her bra got pinned to the wall with a toothpick but figured that line of thought would lead to other memories and that in turn would lead to things that would keep them inside the house for the rest of the day. The two royals of Fairy Tail set about cleaning up their home before grabbing showers, separately. Self-control was such an underrated ability in Naruto's mind. His girlfriend pressed the limits of it with every sway of her hips and every smile from her lips, but if he imagined it as some kind of weird-ass training, he could keep from pawing at her every half hour. The same could be said for Urza, though she did do a somewhat better job of hiding it, as long as she didn't look directly at her boyfriend. Where should we go for lunch anyway? Naruto asked as he pulled on his boots. We could always try that cafe by the canal. She said hopefully. Urza, I would be happy to take you there sometime, but we need to get an actual meal, not just cake. Naruto said with an eye roll. So cake to her is like ramen to you. Sai commented. I eat other things. Naruto argued weakly. Sakura nodded, conceding that point, but pressed on. Yeah, but most of your diet has consisted of ramen with the occasional different meal. And that's only to get people off your back for your bad eating habits. They serve other things. She argued weakly. Really? What else besides desserts and other sweets do they have? He asked with a smirk as she wilted slightly. Tea? She suggested. Right. You remain adorable, but I want some real food. Not just sweets and tea. Naruto said with a small chuckle. Fine. The Redeed pouted playfully before shrugging. Honestly, the best place to eat in Magnolia is probably the guild. Mira can whip something up for us. Naruto frowned slightly before he caught himself and attempted to hide his expression. Urza noticed it before he could though. She let out a long, suffering sigh and snatched up Naruto's hand between her own. Naruto, she really has changed from that brat all those years ago. She's my best friend even. Urza tried. I remember how Mira used to be. Scary. Natsu shuddered. Well, the woman was kind now, back then it was a completely different person. Ray nodded. I know what you mean. You couldn't say anything around her without getting beat. Mira smiled at the two boys. You know I can hear you guys right? The two shuddered once again, this time because they were sure they saw the image of her Satan soul hovering behind her. Nope, I am your best friend. Naruto argued childishly as he let Urza pull him to his feet. You're far more than that and you know it. Mirahan really is my friend though, Naruto. Please give her a chance. I think you two could really get along if you did. Urza said with her big doe-like eyes making the man groan as he knew he would give in. Fine. But. And here is the caveat, Urza, if I do somehow end up getting poisoned by her because she has secretly been holding a grudge this whole time, I am holding it over your head for the rest of your life. Naruto said, causing her to giggle. Sure, you can do that, but when you end up falling for her and her food and try to bring her in for a threesome, I get to tell you I told you so. Urza replied. Naruto looked over at Urza with wide eyes. Had she really just suggested that? Mira likewise gave her redeeded friend a look that said she couldn't believe what she'd just heard. She glanced at Naruto and blushed slightly. The mental images of what she'd heard rang through her mind. The description of what Urza had gone through sounded like something that would certainly make any woman's day. The question now was if she was serious or just messing with the blonde. Naruto choked on air at that thought and glared at his girlfriend as she cackled at his reaction. She was far too playful today. Whatever, let's just go eat. I'm starving now. Naruto mumbled as he led the giggling Riti toward the guild hall. The fairy tale guild was as lively as ever. A couple of small brawls were going in the corners. Singing and drinking were heard throughout the building, despite how early in the day it was, and overall the building was crowded and in high spirits. Drinking first thing in the morning? Naruto questioned. Granny, you would fit in perfectly there. Naruto was fortunate Tsunade wasn't sitting next to him, as he was sure he would have gotten a punch to the face for that. Naruto pulled Urza up to a booth and the couple slid in and waved over at the bar to call for their order. As expected, Mira strolled over with a broad smile, though it did become a little nervous when turned toward Naruto, who also had a somewhat tight smile directed back at the girl, until Lysana joined them, all dressed with an apron like her elder sister. Lysana? You work here now too? Naruto asked in surprise. Yeah, big sis here was willing to show me the ropes. It's a pretty good source of income between missions. I get to catch up with everyone in the guild while doing it too. Felt like nothing but a win around the board, you know. The younger girl smiled at her teacher. As long as you are enjoying it. I'm glad you get to spend more time with your sister. I know she missed you terribly. Urza said with a warm smile of her own directed toward the sweetest of the Strauss family. I'm sorry for that. Naruto offered toward Mira, causing the older girl to blink in shock. No. No, don't apologize. You went to another world to find Lysana and took her under your wing as a student. You don't ever need to apologize to me in regards to her. I trust her and you completely. Mira said, getting a surprised look from Naruto at the passion the woman was speaking with. Just how different was she if they're this surprised? Hashirama asked. Very. All the members of Fairy Tail replied at the same time. The disappearance of her sister changed her, but Naruto wasn't around to experience that change. To him, she would still be relatively the same as when he left, so I imagine this is quite the shock to him. Makarov replied. Afterward, an awkward silence descended onto the table for a moment, during which no one wanted to make too much eye contact. Just as the silence became unbearable, an unexpected hero came to the rescue. Naruto. I challenge you, so get your ass up and fight me. Natsu roared when he saw Naruto. As the pink-haired loudmouth sprinted toward Naruto, Oberon gently pushed Mira and Lysana out of the path of the fire-breathing projectile. Just as he reached the spot Mira had previously been standing, Naruto's foot snapped out and sent the boy up through the ceiling of the building and out somewhere into the town. Happy went flying after him, both to pick on and check on him. Brat. He huffed, though he was happy that Natsu had interrupted whatever the hell it was they had been doing prior to his attack. Natsu never changes. Lysana said with a smile. Not seemingly the slightest bit worried about the boy she had a special connection with. That's good, he might get on people's nerves and cause a lot of trouble, but he's honest to a fault, and while he might be kinda dumb, he can liven things up. Naruto said with a smile. I really just got complimented and insulted in the same breath. Natsu pouted, causing his guildmates to laugh. I also don't cause people a lot of trouble. The members of Fairy Tail looked at him with faces of disbelief. Even Gray, who participated in getting on people's nerves, couldn't believe what he just heard. I'm not even one of them, and I know that's a lie. Kakashi commented. The kid reminded him of a reskinned Guy or Lee, so he already knew what kind of headaches they caused. Yeah. So what did you two want to order? We have some chowder and hot ham and cheese sandwiches for the special, so it's cheaper. Mira brought up. Oberon and Titania made their orders and enjoyed the atmosphere of their guild while they waited, chatting idly. Neither really paying too much attention to their surroundings or the pair of brown eyes that were curiously flicking over to them time and again. As the pair ate, Lucy tried her best not to stare at them, but when they finished eating and Urza stood up and began making her way directly over to her, the blonde panicked slightly. Lucy, what are you doing? Urza asked as Lucy tried her best to act nonchalant. Oh Urza. When did you come in? What a surprise, not that it would be a surprise that you are in the guild, being as you are the Titania and everything. I mean, I'm sure you're always here. Well, that's not to say you just laze around her all day. It would be cool if you did though. I mean, who would tell you no, you're you after all, Lucy rambled while Urza continued to blink at her with a confused stare. Sorry, I just have been trying to work up the nerve to ask you and Oberon to bail me out of this mess Natsu got us into. Just before Naruto punted him through the roof, he signed us up for some quest to hunt down a monster terrorizing farms near Joshire Station. I know Natsu is pretty strong, but from what it sounds like a couple wizards have already been defeated by the monster, and I just wanted to make sure we could handle it. Lucy vomited the words up quickly. Geez, is she always like this? Naruto asked, causing the blonde to jolt back in shock as she hadn't noticed he had joined them. The girl is probably not used to that kind of thing. Sakura said, defending Lucy. Not everyone is like you or Sasuke who will go head on against anything. Naruto blinked in confusion. Why are you telling me though? I'm not there. You kind of are. That's you. Tsunade pointed out. Naruto shook his head. He's him. And I'm me. That's what I just said. The blonde Hokage repeated. Are they always like this? Mira whispered to Sasuke. Uchiha pinched his nose and ignored the pats on the back Sakura was giving him due to his reaction. More than I'd like to deal with. A little bit. She seems a bit worse than usual today though. Urza commented. Why though? Naruto asked, turning to face Lucy who had just finished scowling at him for scaring her. It's Natsu's fault. He has been telling her all about all the times you beat him up when you were kids. Happy said as he flew in, dragging a groaning Natsu with him. Beat him up? I didn't do that. Naruto said, a little offended by the suggestion. Yeah, the only reason Naruto ever beat him at Alice cause Natsu literally asked for it. Challenging him over and over. Gray said from the booth behind Lucy, scaring her again and causing her to jump again and begin glaring at the ice mage. Anyway, so you want us to come with you on this mission? Urza asked as Lucy turned back to face the royal couple. And really be mad if he went to ask for it. Hashirama commented. Yeah, but he punted him through the ceiling. Tsunade told her grandfather only for the shinobi under her command to give her a flat stare. Granny, I've seen you punch people out of the window for sneezing the wrong way. Naruto pointed out. Natsu's eyes widened. This lady was potentially worse than Urza. Yes, please. Gray, you too. I heard that there might be more than one monster even. I don't really know what to expect other than this mission was taken by some wizards in the past and they all failed miserably. Lucy said worriedly. I needed a quest to get back into the swing of things anyway. What do you say, Urza? Naruto asked the Redeed. I'm always happy to help a fellow guildmate when I can. Sure, we'll join you. Urza agreed. But Gray began only to be interrupted. Gray, you carry Natsu home and help him pack, then you two and Happy meet the three of us at the train station. Lucy, we'll need you there when we add our names to the registry so that it doesn't look like we're poaching jobs. Naruto said, ignoring the flabbergasted look Gray gave him at being voluntold into something again. I know the feeling. Sai said. Thought it worked out well for him since he made some good friends, he was well used to being told what to do. Gray shook his head. I'm not sure you do. They're slave drivers. I'm more of a mule that can use ice to them. Team 7 blinked in surprise. Ice. They instantly remembered Haku who was proficient with ice and wondered how Gray stacked up. Can you travel through the ice? Naruto questioned. I can travel across it. I never thought about through it. Sakura knew where Naruto was going with this and added on. Try making a dome out of Nella of ice and see if you can travel through them. It would certainly help you out if you were able. Makarov and Urza thought that seemed too specific to be just an idea. They must have known someone who can do that. Whoever it was, they left an impression, the old man thought. But that the group all set out to complete their preparations. Joshua Station was near the end of the Eastern Line Railroad. That meant it wasn't a terribly long journey, but depending on the mission they might have to stay at one of the surrounding villages for a few days to make sure they did the job correctly. So each member of the team went and packed up their clothes and other necessities. Naruto also had to go and tell his student that he would be away on a mission. She was more or less finished learning what she could from him anyway, but it was common courtesy to at least let her know. Plus, like any dedicated apprentice, she often checked in on her teacher to make sure he was doing fine. Lysandra had stopped doing that on the second day after their return as she realized why it was that Naruto wasn't coming to the guild as often as she was. She also learned why Urza was also absent at the same time. Within an hour the team was assembled at the train station. Natsu complained loudly about having to suffer through transportation. After a couple of moments of trying to explain to the Dragon Slayer that they couldn't walk all the way to Joshua Station on foot in the time frame that they needed, Naruto became fed up and drove a fist into the younger boy's gut, knocking him out. He easily caught him as he fell and slung the pink-haired terror over his shoulder with ease. Much less tolerant of people, I see. Sasuke commented to the blonde. Naruto rubbed the back of his head in slight embarrassment. I'm sure it's something between us. Maybe he punches me back randomly. Natsu denied this vehemently. If I tried that I would get skinned by Urza. No wonder you two make such a great couple. Lucy commented at the sight. What do you mean? Naruto asked. Oh, Urza did the same thing to help Natsu deal with riding the train when we took the Aizenwald quest with her. Lucy explained. Wait, this helps him deal with transport. That's a great idea, smart thinking Urza. Naruto complimented while Lucy stared at the tall blonde man in horror. Naruto had no rebuttal for what had just been said. That wasn't really him, but he wouldn't do something like that, no matter how many times he wanted to. It's actually a pretty efficient method of shutting people up. I did it to Suigetsu a few times. Sasuke replied. Sakura and Tsunade both nodded as well. Women of their temper had done this on numerous occasions to patients. Not that that info would ever get out. Wait, did he just knock out Natsu cause he was annoyed by him then? Lucy screamed in her mind. It was true, Fairy Tail really was a guild of monsters. And the scary part was she somehow fit in. While Lucy had a mild existential crisis, Naruto and Urza led the group onto the train, and Naruto convinced his girlfriend to tell him about this Eisenwald quest Lucy had mentioned as they rode to their destination. "So, you guys fought and defeated a demon of Zeref?" Naruto asked seriously, catching even Urza a bit off guard, though the Redeed recovered quickly and nodded back with a stoic look on her face. "Lysana and I encountered two of them on our way back home. Both within Fiori's borders. There is no way that this is a coincidence," Naruto said with a frown. "What do you think is going on then, Naruto?" Gray asked the older boy. "I couldn't say. I have a few ideas I guess, but they are all sort of crazy. Though some are more worrisome than others." Naruto answered Gray, however he shot Urza a glance at that, getting an understanding look from his girlfriend. She knew the worrisome ideas he was talking about. The same thoughts had given her nightmares before. "Zeref?" Tobirama questioned. "He was the strongest dark mage in the world," Makarov replied seriously. "Though he's long gone, some of the demons he created have stayed around. The shinobi were reminded of Kagaya, or rather Zetsu. He was the living being that had remained after she had been sealed away. The thought of someone like her in that world filled them with worry. Zeref wouldn't have been mentioned for no reason. Does the Magic Council know about the fact that more demons of Zeref have been coming around?" Gray asked. "You know they are more concerned with their image than actual issues. They might know, but even if they did, if they consider the demons contained, they might just place a bounty on the demon and label it as something else and hope the guilds take care of it. Actually, kind of like this job. Would be a perfect cover for taking care of a demon," Naruto said thoughtfully. "No. No way," Lucy groaned. "Why would you say that now? It's definitely gonna be true." "Relax, Lucy, what's the worst that could happen?" Gray asked, causing the blonde to nearly scream at him. "Shut up, Gray. You're making it worse," Lucy bellowed. "Lucy is right, you know." Tsunade agreed. "Now you've pretty much doomed the mission." Gray waves her off, though he looked uncertain. "I'm sure like most stories it's exaggerated. We're gonna be fine." The shinobi glanced at each other and withheld a sigh. They didn't realize that with Naruto there, things wouldn't be that easy. "I know you guys aren't thinking negatively about me." The shinobi shook their heads, minus Tobirama and Sasuke, who freely admitted they were. Their words caused them to stare at each other and frown. "Lucy, calm down, we're all here. It's going to be a piece of cake while we're together," Urza said as she jokingly pulled a plastic-wrapped slice of cake from her bag to enjoy. Lucy simply whimpered as Gray and Naruto both chuckled at Urza's joke. "Do I want to know how long you have carried that around with you to make that joke?" Naruto asked with a big grin. "Probably not," Urza said simply as she dug into her treat. "Joshua Station." Team Royal stepped off the train at the small station and took in the countryside just beyond. It was mostly farmland with a few small wooded areas. As Naruto continued to carry Natsu like a sack under one arm, he led the small group down off of the platform and toward one of the few buildings built alongside the station. "Team Royal?" Naruto repeated. "I like the sound of that. Maybe we can make something like that stick with me." "You're the king of fairies, Naruto. Nothing will change that," Sai replied with a smile. Naruto grit his teeth, wanting nothing more than to wipe that smirk off his face. A hand on his lap from Urza stopped that train of thought. She just looked at him and shook her head. "Don't let them get to you. It's a good nickname." "Grand Heights Resort." Lucy read off the building's title. "It's a joke name, right? It's not even a real inn. It's a house. It'll do as a place to stay for the quest. Plus we can hopefully get some leads as to what we are dealing with here," Naruto said. As they entered the building, they were surprised to find that the little house was crowded with people. Farmers mostly. Pushing their way through the crowd to what appeared the most like a front counter. Behind it sat a young woman with brown hair who smiled awkwardly and apologetically at the group approaching them. "I'm sorry, but as I'm sure you can see, we have no vacancy. Our inn wasn't made for so much traffic at once," the girl said. "I see that. What's going on?" Urza asked. "Out-of-towners. That's rare. Anyway, everyone is trying to get out of the area, but train tickets have shot up in price with demand. It's terrible really," the girl explained. "Everyone is trying to leave town." Kakashi hummed. "Maybe one of the demons they mentioned is around," Minato hypothesized. "Price gouging when folks are trying to survive. That's pretty low," Naruto said with narrowed eyes. "That's what Pa and I thought too. That's why we opened the inn up for them all to stay till they figure something out for themselves. Soon though we won't be able to do anything more for them all." She seemed very distraught about that fact. "You and your father seem like good people to take in others like this." Lucy said with a smile, trying to ease the girl's troubled mind. Hopefully we can help to alleviate the issue some as well. We're here because we took over a quest that has been floating around for a few weeks. Something about a monster attacking the farms and hamlets out here. Any information you can give us about that? Naruto asked. The girl grew more worried at that. She began to shake her head at the mere thought of more people going after the monster. You just made things worse, son. He said. Naruto sighed. Things were already going bad. This was just proving what everyone already thought. You can't. It's already killed 7 wizards that were sent to handle it. It's taken out entire hamlets and farms have been destroyed in single nights. I don't think anyone short of a wizard saint could stop it, she said in worry. Wizard saint? Tobirama asked. 10 of the most powerful mages on the continent. Urza informed them. Everyone instantly thought of a certain organization. Well, it sounded good on paper. When 10 people that strong came together, it was usually not for good. Maybe this place would be different, however. Sasuke was now intrigued by these wizard saints. So far he hadn't seen anything remarkable. For these to be the top 10, they had to have some incredible magic. She's right. Another voice cut in, pulling the attention of the group to a farmhand that seemed to have become little more than a living breathing bruise. I assume you've seen this monster? Gray asked. Nope. I turned and ran the moment everyone started screaming. I just got run over by my fellow villagers when I tripped. The man said sheepishly. Sorry about that, Tom. A voice called out from the back of the crowded room. Ah, water under the bridge, Marco. No harm done. Tom replied back, causing the fairy tale wizards to look at one another as the man brushed off his near-death experience so easily. So we still don't know what we're dealing with then. Gray said. Natsu and Naruto both withheld chuckles at the image that appeared of the man being trampled. It seemed more comical than anything else. I know you're not laughing at that man's unfortunate accident. Minato tried to chastise. He didn't get the chance to be a parent once, but here, maybe now he would be able to. If only for a moment. Unfortunately, even Hashirama found himself chuckling along, which only fueled the others to laugh as well. Who cares? Natsu, who had only just woken back up, roared from his spot in Naruto's arms. There's a monster that needs to be slayed, and I'm all fired up. The pin cat hollered. Shut up, Natsu, you're being a bad house guest. Naruto said as he shook the boy, roughly causing him to become sick briefly until Naruto set him down on his own 2 feet. I can tell you some things about that damned monster. An elderly voice spoke up then. The crowd parted slightly, allowing room for an old woman to slowly approach the team from the back of the room. She was hunched over with age, but had clearly been a strong and respectable woman in her youth, judging by the look her old gray eyes held. Naruto opened his mouth only to have it snapped shut by Sakura. By now the fairy tale was well aware of the familiar relationship the 2 blondes had and was certain he'd be punted just like Natsu if he finished that sentence. It comes every night at sunset. Thunders up to whatever farmhouse or homestead it wants to tear into and just starts ripping into it like hogs do their slop. Doesn't really come after folks in particular unless they make a lot of ruckus or attack it. Damn thing is some sort of twisted minotaur or something. Except giant by all measures. Taller than the biggest barn around here and fast as can be. She said, jabbing at the team with her walking stick to emphasize the points about how large the creature was. Any idea where it is going to attack next? Urza asked. That's easy. It's been following the same path along the river since all this nonsense began. No clue where it will go after that, but next will be the Riddle family farm. It's abandoned, but the damned creature hasn't cared about such a thing in the past. The old woman said. Thank you. If you could all tell us about some of the specific features of the Naruto began only to pause. Where is Natsu? He asked his team. They all turned to look at the empty spot their teammate had previously inhabited a moment before. I'm willing to bet all the money in my pocket he went to Riddle farm. Gray facepalmed. A fool's bet if there ever was one, Gray. Mira replied with an amused smile. They really should have seen this coming. I'll show you guys. By the time you catch up I'll have taken care of it already. Natsu yelled enthusiastically. Despite not being from their world, Naruto couldn't help but doubt that statement. That idiot. Lucy cried out. Leave it to Flame Brain to run off half-cocked. We better catch up to him before he gets himself killed, guys. Gray pointed out. Naruto frowned. He didn't like going into a possible fight with as little information as they had, but their teammate hadn't left them with much of a choice. He didn't say anything to the others. They followed him as he took off on the trail of their, quite literally, hot-headed teammate. Another difference. Kakashi noted. Sai agreed. You usually go straight into battle without information. The only exception was Pain. You guys are always bringing up the past. I'm different now. Not even Minato believed that. His personality took after his mother and that was all the proof he needed. Thankfully they caught up to him before they even reached the river and found him headed in the wrong direction. Back toward where the already destroyed farms already were. "Natsu, what are you doing?" The old lady said that the monster was going to attack that farm over there tonight. Happy tried to say as he pointed at the next, still standing set of buildings aloft the river. "Maybe so, but that monster is this way. It smells weird, but kinda familiar too," Natsu said. Naruto paused at that thought. He hadn't realized that perhaps Natsu's nose was good enough to track down this monster before it caused any more damage to the local homes. "Lead the way, Natsu," Naruto said, simply getting a nod from the boy and odd looks from the others. Urza blinked for a moment before she seemed to understand and nodded to herself. She quickly caught up to Naruto and kept pace with him. It had been a while, but she was itching to fight side by side with Naruto once again. "Alright. Maybe now we'll see some action," Sasuke said, leaning forward. Mira chuckled at the reaction. She knew how much of an interest in magic he'd taken, and despite how well he hid it up until now, he was anxious to see it used. She didn't have to wait long. Both she and Naruto re-equipped their weapons as they came face to face with a demonic creature looming before them. The old woman's description hadn't done the monster justice. It was easily twice as tall as the guild hall back in Magnolia was. It had a muscular body with too many appendages attached to it and an odd off-white skin color that contrasted strongly with the patches of thick black fur that covered random spots of its body. The head of the creature really did look like a bull's. It was little wonder the woman had said it looked like a minotaur. The creature also had 6 arms, 2 larger sets at its shoulder and another smaller set on its chest. One set of the arms on its shoulders didn't end in hands though, instead ending with long terrible looking claws. "Oh, God, it's gross," Lucy said in horror. "It's a demon from the Book of Zareth," Naruto hissed out. Gray and Urza's eyes both darkened heavily and the group as a whole readied themselves for a fight. Naruto himself was frowning. Something big was happening in Fiori and he couldn't figure out what exactly. Whatever it was though, it was bringing old problems to the surface. Demons like this were not supposed to be as common as they are suddenly becoming lately. Something behind the scenes has to be letting them out, Tobirama hypothesized. Hashirama looked uncharacteristically serious and nodded. If they're not supposed to be common, then someone has to be setting them loose. But for what purpose? That's what we'll need to find out, Makarov responded. As long as we're seeing the future, we can prevent a number of things and be prepared. Naruto was happy for them, but wished this had been available just prior to his birth. Maybe his parents would have been ready for the attack. "What do we do?" Lucy asked as she stared up at the monster that seemed to be ignoring them entirely. "What we came here to do. Natsu, take a crack at it," Naruto declared, getting a wild cackle from the dragon slayer. "Let's start with a heavy hitter first. Fire dragon roar." Natsu screamed as he drew in a deep breath and released a massive blast of flame toward his target. "No hand signs needed," Hiruzen noticed. That would have been quite the edge back home. As the fire struck the creature, it stumbled back and blinked as if surprised before chuckling in an inhuman tone of voice. The fire slowly dissipated, leaving only a small section of the creature's chest seared. "Oh, so a new set of wizards have arrived to play. Thank goodness, I've been ransacking these farms and villages for weeks and all they've sent to try and get rid of me were 7 mediocre fools that hardly lived up to the name. I had begun to think that this plan of mine wasn't as foolproof as I thought," the demon said. "They can talk," Sai pointed out. "Not sure why you're so surprised. This is hardly the first time we've come across talking animals and whatnot," Naruto shot back. Urza paused. "You heard Happy the cat talk, but this is what surprised you?" Being a tad bit embarrassed, Naruto simply nodded. Urza had to concentrate down below before she flung herself at him. Her mind constantly struggled with the fact that this wasn't her Naruto. Even if he did look like him and kiss like him. The group of wizards didn't engage in conversation. The only engagement they wanted was combat with the monster. Naruto and Urza each sprinted toward opposite flanks of the monster, gaining his interest, but before he could do anything about it, a lance of ice slammed into his jaw from the front, followed by another ball of fire, similar to the one that had initially gained his attention. Gray, Lucy, Summons, Taurus, and Natsu all attacked from the front, while Lucy and Happy remained further back as moral support for the impossible battle that was beginning before them. Naruto lashed out with his sword against the creature's leg, scoring a painful blow and dropping the giant beast to its knee. Just as he was about to continue on through, the monster's claw swiped down and its titanic strength ripped his sword from his grip and sent it flying away from him. Narrowly dodging backward from the strike to avoid letting it impact his own body, Naruto began avoiding the creature's strikes as he planned a better move. He sucked air through his teeth in agitation as he watched the wound he had given the monster heal in seconds. On Urza's side of the fight, things were going much the same. Sadly, unlike Naruto, she couldn't dodge out of the way of the monster's strike toward her in time and took the blow directly, sending her careening away. Her armor shattered, but thankfully it did its job and Urza remained mostly undamaged by the attack. Having to re-equip again, Urza dressed in faster armor that allowed her to not only attack faster but hopefully avoid the demon's attacks altogether. "So your thing is different types of armor," Naruto pointed out. Urza nodded proudly but didn't get the chance to elaborate as the host made sure to remind them to stay on topic. "At the break I can tell you more about it," she promised. "I'll hold you to that. This is getting nowhere," Gray shouted as another wave of his ice attack seemed to just fall away from the demon's body as he shook himself loose. "Wait, I got it. Let me try this. Fire Dragon's Brilliant Flame," he roared, slapping two hands filled with flame together before launching an even larger fireball at the demon's chest. Once more though, the fire did little more than stagger the creature. "We already saw that it didn't work. Why did you just try it again, you moron?" Gray shouted. "That is a completely different attack," Natsu replied. "No, it wasn't. It was just bigger than the last one and it still did nothing." Gray hollered back only for both boys to scream in fear and roll out of the way of an oversized foot, slamming down right where they had been arguing at beforehand. "Just give up. You little humans can't do anything to me. I am the demon Talmos, the quaking thunder. Quake as I draw," the monster boasted. "Why does it feel the need to monologue?" Sasuke wondered. Mira shrugged. "It's a villain thing. Most of them do it." "Shut the hell up, you overgrown dairy cow," Naruto bellowed as he bent down and slammed a palm into the ground. "You little ant. Try this." Talmos roared as he lifted a foot to stomp down onto Naruto, only for a thick webbing of vines to spring forth from the ground and ensnare the creature, pulling it off balance and slamming it onto its back against the ground. Natural Emmett began with surprise in its voice only to be interrupted yet again. "Yeah. Exactly as you think," Naruto said confidently as his vines began to tighten on Talmos' body, slowly constricting like massive pythons. "Wait. You can use wood style?" Hashirama asked excitedly. "He can apparently," Urza replied, wondering when he'd learned that. Or from who rather. "This isn't enough, wizard," Talmos snarled as he began cutting himself free with the giant claws he possessed. "That's just the opening act," Naruto said calmly as suddenly the vines sprouted thick thorns the size of a full-grown man, each stabbing into the demon, painfully eliciting a scratch of agony from it. "Hey Natsu, you like hollering the names of your attacks all the time. Well, I named this Mother's Ripsaw," Naruto said, getting a confused look from Natsu. "Mother's Ripsaw? Why?" Natsu asked. "'Cause it comes from Mother Nature and it does that," Naruto said while snapping his fingers and causing the tightly bound vines to suddenly twist and tangle in such a fast and furious manner that the demon wasn't just killed, it was absolutely minced into pieces. Hashirama wisted. He'd never made a saw out of plants before, but it seemed like a pretty unique idea. If he wasn't already dead, he'd have been taking notes to potentially use that technique. "Damn. Talk about overkill," Sakura commented. Bray looked over at the pink-haired girl with a raised eyebrow. From what the shinobi had said, she was usually the first to destroy things. Not wanting his head to be one of the things on her list, he kept his mouth shut. The rest of the group grimaced at the brutal nature of the attack. It worked and the demon was definitely dead, but that attack was even more terrifying than the demon itself had been. The fact that Naruto so casually handled it and seemed used to the violence of it added on to the disturbing nature. "Stop standing around, you guys, we should go tell the people the good news. They're going to have to rebuild for a while, but things should be pretty much back to normal for them from now on," Naruto said as he started walking back toward the makeshift inn. The group stared after him for a while as Naruto walked away. Urza soon followed after him, catching up and walking beside him, easily getting over the display. The others weren't quite up to that. "Naruto is kind of a scary guy," Lucy pointed out. "Yeah, well that's Oberon for you I guess," Gray said with a shrug of his shoulders. He still had a haunted look in his eyes though. "They're traumatized now," Tobirama noted. "How weak if something like that had them shaken up." Hashirama noted the tone in his brother's voice and shook his head. "They're not trained killers like we had to be. They probably don't see this kind of thing often." "Natsu, you have to stop challenging Naruto to fights. You are gonna die," Happy warned his friend. "Are you kidding? That whole show just makes me want to fight him even more," Natsu said before he slammed his fists together and sprinted off toward the blonde. "Hey Naruto, when we get back home fight me," Natsu shouted only to catch a fist to the gut, this time by Urza, and have Naruto slinging him over his shoulders like a sack of potatoes. "At least it will be quiet on the ride home," Gray said with a sigh as he, Lucy, and Happy caught up to the others. "See. They're fine," Naruto said with a wave of his hand. Lucy highly doubted the blonde knew what fine was. There was no way she'd be fine seeing something like that. They're strong. Nothing short of death will stop Natsu. Urza replied. Fairy tale. When they had gotten back, the team had cashed in on their quest and largely gone their separate ways. Urza was headed home. She planned to finally make that dinner for Naruto that she had wanted to make when he first returned to the guild. Lucy had to run off and pay her bills before she received an eviction notice from her hag of a landlady, and Natsu and Gray had both been sent outside to settle whatever issue they had made up to fight about now. Happy had gone off to bother Lisana as much as possible for a fish, leaving only Naruto to talk with Master Makarov. That worked out for the best though, as Naruto had some worries he needed to bring to the master's attention. The primary one being the fact that something was causing the demons of Zeref to become active in greater frequency. That and the fact that the Magic Council seemed to be trying to sweep such dangerous issues under the rug. The conversation he had with the master though wasn't one that left him in all that good of a mood. Chances are we're about to get a lead. Sasuke said. This council also seems to be making things worse too. Naruto agreed. Councils can be a good thing sometimes, but right now they're proving to be a nuisance. The book disappeared and found itself situated in Tobirama's lap. Looking up at everyone with a bored expression, he asked. Continue or wait? Once again, the group decided to wait as they had questions they wanted to ask the fairy tale gang. Likewise, Urza had some things she wanted to talk to Naruto about too. Chapter 3. The atmosphere in Naruto's house was incredibly awkward as the three residents sat in a triangle facing one another. Awkward as it was, this conversation really needed to happen. Honestly, it probably should have happened earlier, but two of those residents had been too oblivious, and the third was too ashamed and mortified to imagine talking about this with the others. So Naruto tried to coax conversation out of the girl. The blonde girl blushed darker and buried her hands further into her hands, causing the other two to sigh. Lucy, it's not that big of a deal. I feel like we are partially to blame anyway. Urza tried to calm the girl down. Why do I get the feeling she saw something she shouldn't have? Naruto asked out loud. Sai laughed softly. Well, if she did, it would be the second time that she gets to experience it. Lucy turned a bright shade of red, recalling the intimate moment she'd been forced to listen to, and just like in the book, buried her face in her hands. Can we just not? She begged. What? No, no, no. This is your house. I just can't believe that she buried her head in her hands in abject embarrassment yet again. I mean, I think Urza and I should be flattered, or I guess at least one of us should be. Naruto said flippantly. Lucy groaned into her hands when she saw Urza nodding. Really, the two were taking this way too well. If they had been annoyed or angry or something, at least then she would have felt like she wasn't abusing their hospitality to incredible levels. You've lived with us for over a month, Urza began. Over 2 now actually. Naruto chimed in. Thank you, you've been living with us for over 2 months, and Naruto and I haven't slowed down in our activities in the slightest. We haven't been very considerate of you. Urza comforted her friend. Really can't keep it in your pants, can you, Naruto? Tsunade asked with a disapproving look. Naruto shrugged. It wasn't his fault. If he had someone like Urza back home, the two would never leave his house. It was no wonder that version of him didn't stop. Luckily, Urza wasn't going to sit by and let Naruto get grilled. It's partially my fault as well. Most of the times I initiate. Lucy, I'm sorry for what you're going to hear in the future. Lucy's sweat dropped. Urza was basically saying they would still do it but now apologized ahead of time. I need a new place to live. She groaned. Really, it's my fault. I can blame a little bit on my magic, increasing I'm gonna call it vibrancy, and I was already a bit of a horndog. I have trouble controlling that urge with someone willing close at hand. Naruto said. It's true, honestly we do it more often, but I can't handle going over and over again. Urza said with a shrug. She wasn't ashamed of it, her boyfriend was inhuman when it came to stamina. All types of stamina. Lucy nearly choked on her spit as the conversation took a very weird turn. Despite herself, she felt it was important to return to the topic at hand. You two can't be okay with what I did. I wish she couldn't even bring herself to say it. Touching yourself while listening to us have sex, no, and like I said, it's a bit flattering, kinda weird but flattering. Naruto responded. Lucy wished the ground would swallow her up at that moment. She could feel the blushing stares from Natsu and Gray. Stop imagining it. She yelled at them. The two magic users looked away, but both still had images of what Lucy potentially looked like doing the deed. He hadn't expected something so crazy from the girl after she moved in. It had been a bit of a sudden thing, but he didn't mind having Lucy in the house. The way Urza had talked about what she wanted to say to Lucy just made him excited at the prospect. Lucy was really misreading the situation, which he found funny considering what happened when she had moved in. Flashback. Wait and be ready, tell me you see where I'm coming from. How can he tell me to just wait and be ready? Naruto complained to Urza as they lounged together on the couch after dinner. Well, he is already dealing with the council breathing down his neck. It's probably best we don't draw too much attention to the guild by trying to tell people the council is covering up demon attacks. Urza calmed him down. I know, it's just he seems more caught up with that idiot running Phantom Lord. They've been trading insults, and Master just seems so focused on his next reply that everything else is secondary. Naruto said. Yeah, I can imagine how frustrating that could be. Naruto said. Having problems to deal with while someone is focused on the wrong thing would have anyone in a bad mood. Makarov frowned. He knew the council was full of idiots, but he swore not to get caught up in banter like he seemingly was here. There were things to deal with. You know that's not true. Urza glared at her lover. Naruto frowned but blew out a sigh. I know, but I just feel frustrated. She offered. Yeah, pretty much. He nodded. Well, you seem stuck in mission mode. Always on edge. Aggressive. Have you thought about taking a real break, I mean a full vacation? Urza asked. Thoughts of the two of them enjoying time together on a beach was enticing. That does sound pretty nice, but with all of this stuff happening, wouldn't it be better to stay taking missions to try and at least minimize the damage that the demons can do? Naruto wondered aloud. Well, I still say that no. I say that we need a vacation. Until then though, maybe a little stress relief is called for. She whispered into his ear as her hand began to snake down toward the waistband of his pants. Well, that's one way of taking the edge off. Gray muttered. He felt envious of the blonde. Not because he had Urza, but because he had someone period. In a rare display of camaraderie, Natsu patted the young man's back. One day. Just as Naruto grinned and began sliding his own hands up underneath Urza's shirt, a frantic knock at the door broke their concentration, causing both of them to groan. Someone had better be in the middle of a crisis or dying, otherwise they are about to be, Urza growled as she went over and yanked open the door. Urza and Lucy, who had been the one knocking at the door, blinked at one another for a moment. Urza was a bit shocked that Lucy was at her front door at night dressed in a nightgown and holding a few bags with a couple more piled beside her. Lucy was a bit shocked to see Urza dressed in a cut-off tank top with obviously no bra on and a very thin thong with nothing else on. The situation for the blonde got worse as Naruto came around the corner into sight of the front door, dressed in nothing but a snug pair of shorts and a very clear indicator of what Lucy had interrupted when she arrived. Talk about bad timing. Sakura muttered. Her eyes were glued to the image of Urza in her tank and thong combo and couldn't help but feel self-conscious. While plenty of people told her she was good looking, this woman was clearly on another level. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Lucy cried as Urza and Naruto shared a confused look. That was about when Lucy recalled they were arguably the most shameless people she knew. Suddenly, staying at Naruto and Urza's place seemed to have a negative it didn't before, but it still beat the street since it was too late at night and no one was left at the guild to get her into Fairy Hills. Lucy, what's going on? Naruto asked. Oh, sorry, I am just kinda in a crisis at the moment and need a place to stay for the night. Lucy said, hanging her head at having to ask. Naruto snorted slightly until Urza's elbow jabbed into his side. We'll be happy to take you in. What happened though? Urza asked. My landlady evicted me before I could pay this time. I even have the money, but she changed the locks and tossed my stuff out. Lucy explained. They don't even have a little grace period? Sakura asked. Even in their world they were given a day or two after rent to get the money paid before evictions would happen. Though to be fair, it is much more difficult to evict shinobi. Lucy shook her head. They're super strict about that kind of stuff. And if I don't pay it on the dot, my chances of getting another place to rent goes down. That's terrible. Naruto said as he helped pick up some of Lucy's belongings. It's just for tonight though. I'll get set up with Fairy Hills tomorrow. The girl said as she grabbed the last of her things. The two older mages looked at one another before looking at the blonde again. Lucy, there is an issue with that. Fairy Hills doesn't have all that much space. It's part of the reason I moved in here. The facilities there are okay, but it's better here. Urza explained. So, there isn't room for me to stay there? Lucy asked. Well, there kinda is. It's just there is still a price you have to pay and the rooms are smaller than your old place. Urza continued. Lucy blinked for a moment as she thought about it and suddenly frowned deeply. She had already been charged an exorbitant amount for the apartment she had been staying in and it wasn't that large. To be moving into somewhere smaller for only a small reduction in price was not something she was looking forward to. Then again, she didn't know what else she could do. She would hate to impose on the couple before her. It went without saying that Fairy Hills was likely more expensive due to its good reputation than anything else. But that's how it worked everywhere. Reminds me of home. Naruto muttered with an annoyed tone. Sakura raised an eyebrow. Usually her teammate only had good things to say about their home. In what way? The previous cage all looked to the blonde with curiosity. They too knew he usually sang praises for Konoha. Naruto looked back at them. Come on. Konoha is nice, but the prices for places to live are ridiculous. I can get a house twice as big in Kiri for probably half the price. Tsunade rolled her eyes. Naruto was a genius in battle but didn't seem to know how housing worked. And where would you be? In the middle of a lake somewhere, that's where. I'd be a walk away from the Mizukage Tower. Not a bad gig if you ask me. Naruto relied triumphantly. Hashirama, feeling the need to defend the village he co-founded, cleared his throat. Perhaps, but is being that close to the Mizukage Tower worth missing out on the greatness Konoha has to offer? Have you seen excuse me, the Mizukage? Tsunade narrowed her eyes at the slip of the tongue and they narrowed further seeing the men in the area nod. Even the guys from Fairy Tail nodded as an image of the woman appeared in front of everyone. I'd do it if I were you. Gray chimed only to slump in his seat when Urza looked over at him. You'll stay with us. Just pay for some food and help with utilities. We don't pay rent anymore. I own all of this place now. Naruto said with a nod. There are plenty of extra rooms too. You can even have the one across the hall from us. Urza agreed. Wait, guys. I don't want to just invade like this. Lucy said worriedly. Nonsense. You are our friend and teammate. We trust you to stay with us. Urza argued back. From there on the girl couldn't really convince them otherwise and they quickly got her moved in with all her belongings across the hall from them. It was later in as well, so they all decided to turn in and talk about more details in the morning. At least Lucy wanted to go to sleep. Naruto and Urza however had other plans. Intentionally or not, Lucy found she couldn't attempt to sleep at all with the sound of rhythmic thumping and moans of pleasure. When she had finally fallen asleep, however, it only got worse for her. Her dreams filled with the sounds from across the hall, but it wasn't Urza calling out Naruto's name and writhing in his grasp as he took his pleasure from her body. It was Lucy herself. As if the embarrassment from earlier wasn't enough, now this. Urza looked over at the girl with a strained smile. It wasn't her fault she had those dreams but still. No one liked knowing a friend was getting off to their significant other. It's okay Lucy. That hasn't happened yet. She tried. Her words worked momentarily as Lucy looked up. When she woke up again she found herself in a sour mood and frustrated body but put up a front as the cheery Naruto welcomed her into the house more officially with breakfast. Urza evidently would be stuck in bed for a while longer as she had been overstimulated the night before. That had been the first night after coming to stay with the couple. It has been the same every single day since then. Then flashback. What happened to Shame? Makarov asked with a disapproving shake of his head. Mira chuckled at the aghast look on Ezra's face. Come on master, what else are they supposed to do? They've gone without each other for so long. Aburama, with his stoic facade still in place, responded. Train. Get stronger. There's more to life than sex after all. The first Hokage looked at his brother with a frown. While he usually played the part of the happy-go-lucky man, he was still observant and knew how his brother spent his downtime during his tenure as Hokage. Hypocrite. He mumbled. I can start looking for a new place. You guys are really sweet for underplaying it like this, but it isn't okay that I did what I did. Lucy said with self-loathing. She was a bit disgusted with herself still. It's a completely natural thing to do Lucy. Tsunade consoled. It's just that this idiot has no self-control. She added, motioning to Naruto. You are really misunderstanding. We aren't trying to be polite, we are trying to ask you out. Urza said with a warm smile. You what? I'm sorry, just what? Lucy asked. Naruto and Urza glanced at one another and grinned faintly. I'm not super into girls, but I was trying to explain earlier. I can't handle Naruto alone and I honestly don't mind sharing. Especially with someone I consider a close friend. Urza explained. Wait, are you literally asking me out? Lucy stammered. Yes we are. Listen, this is awkward for us too. Naruto said. Gray seriously had his doubts. They were far too calm about this for it to be believable. Urza listened to her future self with a frown. She liked Lucy and she would certainly allow her to live with him if she needed it, but sharing a house and sharing her man were two completely different things. She couldn't handle Naruto alone. She scoffed. Grabbing Naruto by the front of his shirt, she pulled him over to her until his ear was next to her mouth. That book doesn't know what it's talking about. I can definitely handle you alone. Naruto resisted the urge to shiver from her hot breath hitting his ear. Urza either ignored that he wasn't hers or had completely forgotten. He couldn't blame her though as he was a perfect copy of the man. Then act like it. Lucy mentally shouted at the man. Take time to think about it Lucy, no pressure. You are our friend and guildmate first, but we like you so the door is open for something more if you decide you're interested. Urza said calmly, patting the blonde on her hands and leading Naruto out of the room to get ready for the day. What the hell is with the strong people in Fairy Tail? Lucy wondered as she groaned into her hands. Still, as weird as it felt to be asked into an already existing relationship, she couldn't help but feel the desire to throw caution to the wind. She needed to talk to Levi. The petite girl had become a fast friend at Fairy Tail, and she would be able to help her think through this clearly. Lucy was a bit worried the embarrassment and pent-up feelings from the last 2 months would make her make a poor decision without consulting a second opinion. Sakura withheld a chuckle. So far, Lucy seemed to be the only rational person in that guild. She knew what it was like to work with strange people. Hell, her team was proof of that. "I'm sure things will work out, Lucy," Sakura said. "Not everyone can be like that, right?" "Right?" Her question went unanswered. "Of course Team Shadowgear will be gone for the week on a mission. I should have expected that, honestly," Lucy silently complained as the lunch rush buzzed about in the main hall of the guild. So much for the plan to talk with Levi about what she should do. Instead, Lucy had to content herself with mulling over her thoughts about the situation in her head. It weirded her out that her impulse wasn't to refuse, it was the opposite really. In fact, what held her back the most was she didn't want to feel like a third wheel. Urza outclassed her seemingly in every way. Lucy considered her more beautiful, more powerful, and more capable than she could ever be. Plus, she'd been told the pair of fairy royals joined the guild together. She couldn't truly become a part of that guild. She was liberated from her own thoughts as Natsu thumped down into the seat across from her. He was clearly frustrated and a bit down. Lucy had never seen him pouting so hard before. "What's going on with you?" she asked, against her better judgment. "Nothing," Natsu grumbled before Happy landed on the table and giggled. "He's all mad cause he can't go on an S-class mission without Naruto and Urza, but if he goes with them, there is nothing left for him to really do," Happy explained. Natsu huffed. "It wasn't fair. We've been over this, Natsu," Makarov chastised for what seemed like the millionth time. "What good is going on a mission if I don't do anything on it?" he complained. "How am I supposed to get stronger if I don't get to fight anyone?" Naruto could somewhat relate to the man. It had been similar for him back in the day. But he also knew it was better to know your limits. Had he tried the wave mission himself, he wouldn't be here today. "It's not fair, I could totally ace the S-class exam if they held them again," Natsu complained. "Naruto and Urza are S-class, and they beat you up like it's a warm-up workout," Lucy said with a deadpan. "Wow, Lucy, something good must have happened to you cause you are being really generous," Happy laughed. "Shut up, Happy jerk," Natsu snapped before huffing. The trio fell into silence before Happy turned to look at Lucy. "Hey, you actually seem bummed out about something too." "Oh, it's nothing really. Just I live with Naruto and Urza." She stopped there. She was not about to talk about the details with Natsu and Happy of all people. "Go on," Natsu drawled. I am just feeling kinda weak lately, I guess," Lucy said. The boys went quiet and looked at one another before a grin spread onto Natsu's face. Lucy was immediately suspicious she was getting played somehow. Like Natsu and Happy were trying to rope her into something incredibly stupid. "What did you two do?" she demanded. "You mean what are we going to do?" Natsu chuckled as he pulled out a job flyer clearly labeled S rank. "Oh no, 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 no. You are not dragging me into another one of your harebrained schemes," Lucy said, waving her hands in front of her face as if warding off Natsu and Happy's plan. Tsunade looked over at the two in question and shook her head with a sigh. She'd seen this play out more times than she could count. Lucy was about to be pulled into a harebrained scheme. "Don't let him take you, Lucy. You know how it'll end," Makarov pleaded. Lucy wanted to point out that it wasn't her but refrained. It would do little good. She knew herself and knew that it was inevitable. Naruto was more curious as to how Natsu would pull this off. Sweet talk her. Use money as an incentive. "Oh, but you were just saying how you wanted to prove you were strong, right?" Happy asked. "This isn't what I was talking about," Lucy hissed. "But Lucy, look at the reward for the quest," Natsu said, showing her. Lucy didn't want to look, but she was a bit curious. As the saying goes, curiosity killed the cat. "The Zodiac Key," Lucy mumbled. "That's right," Natsu grinned. "We really shouldn't," she weakly argued. "Oh, alright, I will just put it back, I guess. Too bad. Then again, I guess Naruto and Urza will be fine with you staying, even if they don't consider you like them," Happy said in a faux sad voice. Sasuke nodded approvingly. The cat knew how to manipulate someone. The look on future Lucy's face told the whole story. She was certainly going. "The Zodiac Key," he muttered shortly after. "Like the 12 members of the group of the same name from that new story that was published back home," Sai commented. "Is that any good?" Sakura asked, needing some new reading material. "Very. The Zodiac Key is a spatial magic type of key that allows me to summon different warriors essentially. It's the kind of magic I use," Lucy informed. The first two Hokage blinked. That sounded interesting. Their thoughts went to the tailed beasts immediately. Being able to summon them on a whim would have made someone a gargantuan threat back from their world. While the cat was misunderstanding the actual issue between her and the power couple, there was enough of Lucy's own doubts wrapped up in what he was saying to break through her resistance. Fine, let's go. Lucy huffed, already knowing she was going to regret this. Ladies and gentlemen, we got her. Natsu cheered, pumping a fist into the air. You don't think we came on a little strong? Naruto asked Urza. Lucy's a big girl, I'm sure she can appreciate us being blunt and upfront. Besides, you saw how embarrassed she was about being caught. It has to be a relief to know we don't mind and are even interested in her. Urza replied as Naruto held the guild hall door open for her. If you say so. I was a bit surprised when you suggested it though. You know I can. Naruto began before Urza rolled her eyes, causing him to stop. Naruto, I love you, but you are a literal monster thanks to your magic. I hate the prospect of you not being fulfilled in every way, and I don't know if it's because of how we were raised or what, the idea of you being with other girls doesn't bother me. She said with a simple shrug. Naruto glanced at the redeed next to him. Her words earlier had given him the impression she wasn't for that. That's the part I get hung up on. I mean, I can't stand the idea of you, Naruto said with a frown. That's fine. Like I said, a big part of this is because you are too much for me. I really hope she accepts. I want to see you actually dropping out instead of me for a change. Urza said as they made their way over to the bar. This isn't just sex though, Urza. Call me a romantic, but I am not interested in casual sex. I wouldn't shy away from it I guess, but if I am having my way with a woman, I want her to be my woman. Naruto explained. You have the chance most men would kill for and are questioning it. Sai pointed out. Maybe some of my words are still true after all. Naruto lifted his middle finger, so Sai knew exactly how he felt about him. I'm sorry I'm so loyal. Naruto huffed. Hell, I don't even watch porn back home, I'm so loyal. So loyal that the porn you do watch doesn't include women? Sai asked with a far too innocent grin. Naruto grit his teeth and lunged forward only to be brought back by Ezra's hands on his waist. Relax. She said calmly. He's just messing with you to get a reaction. That probably ties back into the whole possessive thing about you not wanting to share me, but me being fine with sharing you. I wonder how much of that is related to your magic. Urza pondered aloud as she tapped her chin. Not much actually. The libido, sure, I am pretty much always wanting to go at it. If this place wasn't packed I'd probably be playing with your skirt to get you to bend over one of these chairs. Naruto commented nonchalantly. That must be hard. I am still pretty out of it since we showered earlier. I don't think I could go for another day at least. That does make me curious though. Are you just naturally possessive while I'm not? Urza asked. I dunno. Here, try this. If I were to go have sex with someone without your permission, like say Lysana, how would that make you feel? Naruto asked. Urza hummed as she pondered that for a moment before a slightly sour look crossed her face. Naruto snapped and pointed at her. That wasn't a happy look. He commented. You really do have unnatural luck, Naruto. Kakashi said. Why could he have women wanting to pass him around? Naruto frowned. I don't want to just be a walking dildo to people. I want them to want me for me and vice versa. Sasuke rolled his eyes. It was just sex. Yeah, no, it kind of pissed me off even thinking about it. She commented with a confused expression. I get that feeling when I think of you and someone else. That in kinda sick. Like my chest and stomach hurt. Naruto replied. That's how I felt when I thought you died. Like I was actually ill. Oh my, you do love me? Urza teased him. Yeah, well of course I do. Back to our conversation though. You dislike the idea of me sleeping with Lysana or simply sleeping with another girl without your permission, but as long as you bring in Lucy it's fine. So is it Lucy or is it the permission part that makes it okay? Naruto asked. Definitely the permission part. Lucy is attractive enough, but I'm not into girls all that much. It kind of excites me, but more the thought of seeing you do that thing from last week to her. It's strange really when you had my leg up. Urza stopped mid-sentence as both noticed how quiet it had gotten as they spoke and turned to look at several guildmates staring at them with tomato-red faces. I had forgotten you two were in public. Tsunade groaned. What happened to shame? She said, parroting Makarov's words. It's an important conversation. Urza defended. Who knows when we'd be able to talk about it? Naruto groaned and covered his face. The second-hand embarrassment he felt was overwhelming. It looks like his variant didn't care about what he said or when. Talking about sex with a friend while mentioning others wasn't something he would do back home. Of course he'd mentioned it with friends, but that was in private environments. This really was shameless. None were worse than Mira and Lysana, who were standing in front of the pair at the bar. They looked mortified at the topic the two had been discussing so brazenly. Neither Naruto or Urza felt all that bothered though, more annoyed by the focus on their conversation by literally everyone in the room. The two were incredibly shameless. Makarov knew why, there was essentially no privacy in the setting that both of them had grown up in, and being raised in that environment would always carry strange habits for both of them. Still, he drugged the pair off to his office. It looked like he needed to lecture them both on what was okay and not okay to discuss in the guild hall. He never really thought he would be having the conversation with arguably his two most responsible wizards, but they were the best examples of fairy tale wizards for a reason. That came with all the weird quirks and destructive tendencies as well. The lecture was a short one. Especially when they had explained what had started it, causing Makarov to very nearly have a heart attack at the thought. He couldn't help the jealousy he felt toward Naruto in the moment. Though he also had a bit of pity for him. The personal magics of every person affected them to their very being. It was just a part of their reality as wizards. Naruto's however made it to where even when he was repeatedly making love to Urza, one of Makarov's top two beauties in the guild, he couldn't be satisfied. The old man was only pitying for a brief amount of time before realizing that was only furthering his jealousy of Naruto's situation even further. Life truly isn't fair. Makarov muttered. His guild members rolled their eyes. Sadly, most of the men from the shinobi side all agreed with him. It really isn't fair. I mean, I can't even go a full round with Pryuska without taking my pills. And that old bat is as wrinkly and dried up as I am. The master bemoaned in his mind. Natsu and Gray felt sick hearing that. No one wanted to imagine the aged master getting freaky with an equally aged woman. Naruto glanced at Tsunade out of the corner of his eye to see her staring at him with a look that promised pain. If I even cross your mind in any way, she threatened. Sadly, her words had the opposite effect and he was forced to look away before he was discovered. Was that all you wanted to talk about with us, old man? Naruto asked, not really bothered by the lecture. On the other hand, Urza was blushing faintly now, having finally realized just how much they had shared with the guild at large earlier. She was worried she would never live it down. Naruto knew that they would never utter a word about it if they wished to continue breathing. Oh, no. I actually had something I wanted the two of you to look into. We might have a possible connection to the increase in the demons of Zeref popping up across Fiori. My friend on the Magic Council forwarded the information to me because his hands are tied and he can't look into it as deeply as he feels it needs to be. Makarov explained as he drew a thick folder out of a box and placed it in front of the two young wizards on his desk. The girl? Urza asked in surprise. A bit random, I know, but she has some kind of connection to at least two resurrected demon cases that have been handled by the Rune Knights in the last month. Thankfully they were both extremely weak demons. Still, the fact this woman was there is no coincidence. Be careful though. She cut through a squad of investigating Rune Knights like they were paper dolls. The master insisted worriedly. We understand. We'll be careful. Just where are we headed to find her though? Naruto asked. One of these three towns. Pelson Port, Lodwig Port or Harjan Port. There's been sightings in all three and each is used for smuggling and we think perhaps even piracy. The small man said. So a girl is causing all of this? Hashirama wondered. I wonder how exactly she's summoning these demons. Through some kind of spell most likely. The man's brother replied. The question is whether she can summon and control them or just summon them. Both were equally terrifying thoughts for the fairy tale group. Someone capable of commanding these demons would need to be handled with the utmost urgency. Well, I can take Pelson, you take Lodwig and we meet in Harjan if both are clear. We can use communication Lacrima to get in touch if we spot her and wait to overwhelm her together. Urza suggested. Sounds good. I can't shake that this is going to be a lot bigger though. She probably won't go down without a fight either. Naruto responded. True, but I prefer it that way. Urza grinned. That's my girl. Of course you do. Naruto said with a laugh as the two S-class wizards began leaving. I will have a Lacrima with me in case we get any updates or you learn something new while on the mission. Either way, be very careful. Those towns are pretty peaceful, but that doesn't mean that this girl or any others she has working with her aren't a threat to your health. Makarov reminded them. We know, master. Still, this needs to be stopped before more demons can be brought back and wreak havoc on Fiori and the other nations. Urza reassured him. Plus it's us. You can always count on us, right? Naruto asked. Of course I can. Now handle this mission and come back to enjoy time with the fairy tale family. Both of you have been spending too much time at home doing certain things. We all miss our Oberon and Titania once more. Makarov said with a fond smile. Well, at least we'll finally see some action. Natsu said with a smirk. He was curious to see what kind of S-class mission he managed to snag. If this really was the events of the future, he would know how to handle it better. Maybe he'd even be promoted to S-class. I know what you're thinking, Natsu, and you can forget it. Makarov said sternly. You're not taking that mission when we get back. But Gramps. Natsu yelled. What if I end up doing good on it? Mira couldn't help but feel doubt creep up within her. Natsu and good decisions didn't really go together. Wherever he was concerned, misfortune typically seemed to follow. And it seemed like this time Lucy would be pulled into it as well. The pair left the office and quickly went back to their home to collect clothes and supplies. They weren't sure how long they would be gone specifically. That and neither was of the mind of being caught unprepared for some sort of change to the mission. Makarov sighed as he sat on the bar back at the guild. The things Naruto had brought up had him worried. He had no desire to see Xeris monstrosities wreak havoc on the world, or worse yet see the Dark Wizard return to the land of the living. Cult supporting that man remained to this day. If anything, they had grown in number and power over time. Some of his children, especially Naruto and Urza, had already suffered terribly at their hands. He hoped that this girl Naruto and Urza would no doubt catch would help reveal how to stop more of these demons being awakened and set upon the world. He trusted Naruto and Urza to work hard to put an end to this threat. Sadly, while he could count on them to do what was best for the guild, he could also always count on others doing something stupid. Master. One of the S-rank quests has been stolen. Murahin worriedly announced, catching the attention of everyone in the guild. Mira's head swiveled to Natsu, who in the story had swapped a mission. The urgency in Mira's voice told them it must have been something important. Please tell me you didn't take something far beyond your capabilities, Natsu. The white-haired mage pleaded. Knowing Flame Brain, he just grabbed one that paid a lot. I doubt he read what the job actually entailed. Gray muttered. Though he put up an annoyed front, in reality he really was worried for his friend. S-classes were classified as such for a reason. They were difficult, and while strong, Natsu was nowhere near S-class. Stolen? Several people cried in surprise. Who would steal a quest? Someone asked. Everyone was silent for a while before they realized exactly who would. But how could Natsu get it? We would have seen him go up to the second floor, right? Lysana asked worriedly. She didn't want to assume he was the fool to steal the quest, but he really was the only one that would do something so reckless. It's sweet of her to give him the benefit of the doubt, but she knows full well it was him. Tsunade told her. Even if she'd only known the kid for a little while, she had a good idea of his personality. Even if they hadn't seen him take it, all signs pointed to him. Natsu frowned but kept quiet. He would show them. He was confident the book would show him completing the mission. So that was what Happy was doing. Laxa said calmly from the second floor with his feet kicked up onto a table. The others turned to look at him. Mira stormed up to him glaring hotly, an expression that very rarely came to her face nowadays. Oh ho, been a while since you looked at me with that kind of face. Laxus mocked. Laxus, why didn't you say anything if you saw them? She demanded furiously. All I saw was a cat run off with a piece of paper. Didn't realize it was Happy until now. Laxus blatantly lied, causing Mira's angry face to only darken more as Lysana also began glaring up at the man from her place behind the bar. Naruto blinked, not even Kakashi would lie about something serious so blatantly. This Laxus guy was someone he knew would get on his nerves if he knew him personally. Is there a punishment for allowing this? Hiruzen asked calmly. Makarov shook his head and angrily looked at Natsu. No, even though I don't believe my grandson, no one can prove otherwise so he can't be punished. Tsunade glanced at Sakura who shrugged, but both knew the older blonde was full of it. What kind of cat was blue with wings? There was no way he didn't know. He was just lucky they weren't there, otherwise he'd have been knocked out. What quest was taken, Mira? Makarov asked. The cursed island of Galuna quest. I think they roped Lucy into it too, she left before Naruto and Urza got here and they're roommates now. Mira said as she continued to glare at Laxus. She considered Natsu and Happy part of her family, like a little brother and nephew, honestly. I knew they were stupid, but to take a mission like that, Alzak grumbled. And dragging the newbie into it. Those idiots. Biska hissed. She hadn't really known Lucy yet, but she had seen Natsu and Happy dragging her into missions she wasn't really ready for. Doing something like this would be grounds for expulsion from the guild when they get back. That is if they come back, right, Gramps? Laxus said with a grin. Laxus? Go and get them. You're the only S-class wizard available. Makarov ordered. Pass. They think they're good enough to take the quest on. Let them do it. If they die, it's better for the guild that weak wizards are gone anyway. Laxa said, getting disgusted looks from the others as well. Hashirama frowned at the display. How could a comrade say something like that about one of their own? To wish for expulsion or grin at the thought of one of their own dying was beyond unacceptable. I don't know how to say this without sounding mean, but your grandson is an asshole. Sakura told the aged master. Makarov rubbed his face, but couldn't find it in him to reply. As much as he wanted to defend his own blood, the young man made it difficult. Fortunately, Urza responded for him. He is. What about Naruto and Urza? They were here earlier. Lysana said, hoping to have her mentor and his lover save her own love and new friend. They left on an important mission already. I can't take them off of it unless absolutely necessary. Makarov said sadly. It was a hard decision, but the mission to stop the resurrection of demons had to take priority. They could kill untold numbers of people if left unchecked. Then I guess I'll go. Gray said as he stood up. Are you sure, Gray? Makarov said worriedly. I'm one of the few people here who can force Natsu into anything. It has to be me. The ice wizard said as he began to move toward the door. Makarov didn't like it. He would still rather have someone far stronger than Natsu handle it. If Mira was still an active fighter he would send her in a heartbeat, but she had been retired for years now and focused on modeling and helping him manage the guild. Fine. Makarov said with a sigh. But you will get a communication lacrima from Mira and stay in touch. If I don't hear anything I will recall Naruto and Urza and send them after all of you. Understood. Gray said as he took the orb from Mira who seemed frustrated for some reason. The ice mage couldn't dwell on it though and made his leave. I really hope you're able to get to them, Gray. Naruto said. Leaving demons running around because someone decided to break the rules is just, he trailed off with a shake of his head. Gray nodded in agreement. I know. I'm confident in myself though, I can do it. And Harjin, Lucy, Natsu and Happy were reminiscing as they made their way toward the docks. After all, Harjin was where they had all met and eventually led to Lucy joining the guild. It's really nostalgic. Lucy said with a smile as she took in the town. I don't know about nostalgia, it hasn't been all that long since you joined the guild really. Natsu commented. It feels like a long time now though. Lucy replied. I've been in the guild since I was a kid. You know, actually most of us have been. You're kin to the odd one out. Natsu commented, causing her to huff at that. Whatever, let's just find a ride to the island and get this quest over with. Lucy groused. We don't need a ship. We can just swim there. Natsu said as he trailed after her. That's insane, it's miles off the coast, we'd drown before we made it halfway. Lucy snapped. You, maybe. Happy chirped before fucking behind Natsu as Lucy shot him a deadly glare. I cannot believe I let you talk me into this nonsense. Ugh, this better be worth it. She whined. To be fair, you saw the money and went along with it. Wasn't so much them talking you into it. Naruto pointed out, only to have to raise his hands to placate the glare Lucy sent his way. It wasn't like he couldn't see why she went, she needed money, and having witnessed and done what she had, this must have seemed like a good idea at the time. Honestly, a lot of this is the fault of the Fairy Hills rent person. Had they just waited a day, Lucy probably wouldn't have gone. Nor would she be listening to you two hormonal teenagers having sex on a daily basis. Tsunade told them. Naruto just shrugged. If he had Urza back home, they probably wouldn't see him often either. Things didn't really improve for the girl from that point on either. Every boat captain and ship skipper they asked flat out refused. Either it was bad luck or the curse on the island, or they simply told them to swim for it in a rude manner. At least to Lucy it had been rude. Natsu had of course agreed that was the best course of action. We aren't swimming across the ocean. Lucy shouted. Well, the last guy just said they don't talk about Galuna Island in this whole port. Nobody is going to take us there. So how else are we gonna get there? Natsu asked. Pound you. Gray said as he clasped his hands onto Lucy and Natsu's shoulders, causing both to scream in panic at the sudden surprise. The two jumped away from him and spun around. Natsu jabbed a finger at his counterpart with a glare, while Lucy and Happy caught their breath from the sudden shock. Gray. What the hell are you doing here? Natsu demanded. I've got orders from Gramps to bring you back. Gray calmly replied. Ah, what? The jig's up already? Natsu shouted. If you go back now, you might even get away without being expelled. Gray grinned. Expelled? Lucy cried out. Ashirama felt a twang of pity for the young woman. First she was expelled from her apartment, now she could potentially be expelled from the guild. She really couldn't catch a break. Natsu, if I get expelled from the guild you're dead. Lucy said with a venomous look. The fire dragon slayer gulped, feeling fear for the first time. Lucy had been plenty mad at him before, but not like this. Natsu shoved up into Gray's face with a snarl, causing the ice mage's grin to fall. As if, I'm going on an S-class quest. Natsu shouted. You ain't got the skills to handle it. Gray grumbled before his expression fell into a pale terror. If Naruto or worse Urza find out about this you'll, Gray said, causing all three of the others to panic slightly. Gray, save me. The two of them forced me to come along. Happy cried as she settled onto Gray's shoulders. You little traitor. Lucy shouted. Naruto laughed. He liked the little cat even if he was a coward. I'll be sure to put a leash on Happy if the events unfold the same way. Lucy muttered. Sai smiled. If events unfold the same way, you're going to be asked to participate in their sexual activities too. Team 7 sighed collectively. Leave it to Sai to bring that up again. I'll take Urza and Naruto head on. I'm not going to back down from this. Natsu announced, only for Gray to shove into him, glaring right into his face. This is a direct order from the master. I'm gonna bring you back to the guild by force if I have to. Don't complain if you get hurt. Gray shouted as he began activating his magic. You're on. Natsu roared as his hand burst into flames. One of the boat captains that had turned Natsu and Lucy down looked on in shock as the wizards brought up their spells. He didn't seem all that worried about the oncoming fight, more at the prospect of mages coming looking for passage to Galuna Island. Magic? Wait, are you all wizards? Are you actually here to lift the curse on Galuna Island? He asked. Yeah. Natsu said with a grin. Well, Lucy began awkwardly. With Gray here to take them back to the guild, she didn't want to get the man's hopes up. No. I won't let you go. Gray declared to the other two Fairy Tail Guild members. Good job, Gray. Kakashi praised. Sticking to the mission and keeping your comrades alive. Gray felt uneasy. Something told him things wouldn't be this easy. They never were. I'm willing to bet they end up getting guild trips somehow into going, or Gray gets talked into going with them by Natsu. Sakura challenged. The man hesitated a moment before looking over at Lucy and Natsu again. Get on board. Natsu cheered while Lucy was surprised by the sudden change from his earlier refusal. Gray, however, was having none of it. He refused to let them board the little boat. It was the master's orders that they be brought back after all. While he was turned to explain things to the boat captain, Natsu saw his chance and knocked the ice mage out with a crack to the back of the head. The dark-haired boy dropped like a sack of potatoes before Natsu hoisted him up onto his shoulder like some kind of bag. Well, I guess you win, Lucy. We'll ride in this boat. Natsu said as he walked back over. What, we're just going to bring Gray with us? Lucy asked. If this guy goes back to the guild, then Natsu began to say, only for him to stop as a mumbling could be heard from Gray's pocket. He had the lacrima in his pocket. Sasuke recalled. Think the master was listening in? Natsu asked, sending the master a worried look. Blinking for a moment, he pulled out a small orb only to freeze up as he realized what he held and the people looking back at him through the orb. Makarov and Mira both blinked in surprise at seeing Natsu's face before they narrowed their eyes at the unconscious form of Gray. Natsu? What did you? Makarov began to shout only for Natsu to hurl the lacrima off into the water as far as he could. What are you doing? Lucy demanded. The quest. Come on. Natsu cheered as he pulled her onto the boat and the odd little group started off toward the island. Despite Lucy's very worried negative thoughts about the whole thing. You are so lucky your master is soft on you. Tsunade muttered in shock at what she'd seen. Naruto nodded. If he was one of us, I don't think he'd live much longer after he got back. Makarov was practically red in the face in rage after what Natsu had done. Thankfully Mira was quick to act and moved most of the things around them out of the way so he wouldn't feel the need to smash anything up like the rest of the guild often did. What do we do now, master? She asked as the old man began to calm down. The only thing we have left to do, I suppose. Use the lacrima and notify Naruto and Urza what's going on. Their mission is important but not so important that they can't save those idiots from an early grave. Makarov ordered. Understood. Mira said as she began making the calls. Soon Naruto and Urza would be coming for them, just as Gray had warned. Something tells me it would have been safer for them to do the mission. Tabarama muttered. This version of Naruto wasn't as easygoing as the one he knew. The pink-haired mage had certainly dug his own grave with his antics. If someone gets hurt, it's on you. Can you live with that? Sasuke asked the man. Natsu seemed reluctant to respond. He knew that what he'd seen was definitely something he would do. Now though, he was having different thoughts after seeing how people reacted to his actions. He would still try to take S-class missions, but maybe he would need to go about it a different way. Whatever the case may be, he really hoped his future self could handle it or there would be hell to pay. His thoughts were broken by the appearance of the book in his lap. A large hand gripped him by the neck and he was forced to begin reading by the furious master. What if Konoha reacts to Naruto in Fairy Tail End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.